Sir, to pathologist, madam, she's a professor and HOD of pathology. So we have two pathologists here in the crowd. Then we have two professors of physiology, professor of pathology, professor of medicine, neurologist. Of course, the rest of the crowd, they all joined in the morning, and I already told them that how pleasant and how flattering it is to be in the company of such young people taking interest into all these activities. That itself is quite something. And what we are going to do today is, one part is that we are going to look at some of the critical concepts. And Vaishali madam, in her opening statement today, she told you that mind-body enterprise, to many different people it has many different meanings, many different ways of doing it. And as you know, what has happened with the term yoga, that many different people make their own interpretations out of it. So, and which is fine, we after all, we live in a free world, we live in a democracy, and people have their own personal choice, to make different meanings out of it. That is how the human mind works. Same thing has happened to, in some way you can say, this term called as a mind-body medicine also. People use it in many different contexts. So let us try to look at some conceptual issues, important issues. And it is important for us, because it is not so easy to get such a wise and such a diverse audience, to get interaction with them. And we would look at some of the conceptual issues, in the sense that some of them are perhaps also open questions. I'm not here to standing here to tell you that we have answers to all of that, but at least be aware of questions, because Jnani people, they say that if we have good questions, there is a good possibility that we are on the right track, we can formulate the right answers to it. So we will look at some of the conceptual developments, we will look at the lacuna in our current model of practice of health, practice of medicine. And then we are going to mind-body medicine, the term starts with mind. So we are going to look at actually the mind science. We are going to do a lot of exercises related to that. Because the British people, as they like to say, that the proof of the pudding is in eating. So we have to test it, we have to test some of those ideas, technologies on ourselves, and that's what we are going to do later today, rather throughout the day. So all of you have been, I would say, very forthcoming to say that this is the way forward, isn't it? At least this audience, we of course are a biased audience, that's why we are all here. We all are going to say that this is the way forward. But it's good that at least we have an agreement on one idea, that mind-body medicine is the way forward. Later in the day, we may have disagreement on many other topics, and as I said, the floor belongs to the participants in a workshop. So please be expressive, okay? Divergent views, differences, arguments, counter arguments, no problem, okay? So let us roll, because from this moment onwards, we will forget that someone is a professor, someone is a 30-year, 40-year, 50-year in practice, whatever, or 2-year in practice, or nobody. So we forget that, So we all are people here who are primarily interested in health and well-being. That includes, most importantly, our own health and well-being. So let us look at ourselves as consumers, not as health for some other people. Let us look at from a very selfish viewpoint, that I am trying to look at my own health. Okay, and from that point, that vantage point, let us look at these things. So next one, please. These 4 elements for today. One is the intro. Then I will try to give you a very brief overview that what is new in medicine. New in medicine as in the sense that what is currently not in the medicine textbooks, okay, which is but more involved in the scientific world. Luckily we are part of that, we get to hear many of those debates, and that I will try to brief for you. Then what is new in mind science, what is new in neuroscience, what is new in mind science, that although you may or may not have a background in the brain science, the neuroscience, but you should still know, as I said, as a consumer, what is it that as an educated individual that you must know, about the way your brain works. So new in mind science, and then most time we would like to devote to doing all these hands-on, and that's why you have a 12-page handbook in your hands. You will see that there is a handout given to you which is like a handbook, and it will have some of those exercises. So I will tell you that when to open which one, during what time. Next one, sir. Okay. Next one. So, as I said that I am back to my modest self. So, most important duty in science is to acknowledge the mentors. Professor B.N. Gangadhar, Professor of Psychiatry, he was my teacher when I was a resident in NIMANS very, very long ago, into the late 80s. So I am a very ancient piece of furniture with all of you new people. I did my psychiatry residency in late 80s, and he was my teacher at that time. Subsequently, as you know, he goes on to become the director of NIMANS, and now he is the president of National Medical Commission. And he has been himself personally a very renowned brain scientist, fellow of International Brain Research Organization, and who also introduced the neurobiology of yoga research in India. And because of that work, he also, Government of India recognized his work, honored him with a Padma Shri, and currently he is the president of the National Medical Commission of India, as all of us know. I am very lucky that my very personal level relation continued. The teacher-student relation didn't stop, into the late 80s, but it has continued all these years. And in some sense, I can say that I continue to assist him in his work. His latest work is with regards to integration of NCDs, bringing all the NCDs together. The Government of India has already issued a GR to this effect. Non-communicable diseases, previously they were compartmentalized, the cardio, the neuro, the diabetes, they were put into different compartments. Now they are all together, even in the eyes of government. So NCDs on one platter, all non-communicable diseases, no longer separate entities. We should see them together. So we continue to work with him. Next one is Professor Bhavsar. He is our trustee also. He has a very interesting background. He is a former head of the Artificial Intelligence division of Center for Development of Advanced Computing when AI was not involved. He was actually head of AI at that time. He also is a very important linguist. He has a PhD in linguistics, and because of his linguistics background, he has been a very great Indologist, I would say, someone with deep insights into the ancient Indian sciences. He is into his mid-80s now, Helen Harty, and he is primarily the person who acquainted us with all the ancient Indian sciences, including the Yoga Sutra and all such, allied things. He is also our trustee, one of the most important, you can say, inspirational person behind all the research also that we do. All these biorhythms and autonomic nervous system, development of technology, and the whole mind-body medicine. So very important person. Third one is Professor Ernst Poppel, very renowned neuroscientist. He was my mentor in Germany. He was actually one of the persons shortlisted for a Nobel Prize also. He's a very renowned neuroscience, basically a physiologist, neurophysiology background person. He was the head of the science center at ULISH and at Institute of Medical Psychology in Munich. Very instrumental in bringing me to the basic neuroscience. Lot of insights we are going to use from that work. Professor Norman Sartorius, another my mentor. He was a former director of World Health Organization, still very active, and in fact this whole workshop that we are sitting in today, 4 years ago, this whole idea came about. We had organized a small conference in Munich on health promotion and mind-body medicine, and we had invited Norman Sartorius. I was part of as a young professional I was part of his mentorship program 30 years ago. I was selected to be one of the persons to he groomed, and we had invited him, and luckily Vaishali was also there in Munich that time, exactly 4 years ago. And we had the great benefit of several hours of personal interaction, kind of sitting on a table with Norman Sartorius, and it is from there that we started our national level, in our national medical associations, the task force on mind-body medicine, of which I was given the responsibility to do that one. And last one, our senior colleague Reinhard Bögle, he is the president of Yoga Forum Munich, and I already told you that he is the one who pioneered this whole idea of neuroscience of yoga, bringing neuroscience into yoga, teaching, training also, not merely the research part, and a lot of contribution to our work comes from him. Indo-German collaboration, of course, last 10 years of Indo-German collaboration, we are going to show you from that. A lot of neurological studies, EMG studies, heart rate variability studies, EEG studies, so a lot of neurophysiology studies related to yoga as part of this Indo-German collaboration. So we very wholeheartedly acknowledge, and I believe that therefore in spirit, all these people are here with us. We try to bring their one generation up. I am sort of with all these people here, all these faculties, the next generation. We try to continue, this tradition of bringing this knowledge to all of you. Next. I told you that I had a close association with epidemiology. Epidemiology tries to measure prevalence and pattern of prevalence, means how many patients, what is the pattern in the community, not just people coming to the clinics, but epidemiology, as you know, is something which is happen out there in the community. I am sure that you would have recently read such headlines in the newspaper. The Indian Council of Medical Research, it had predicted that we will have 10 crore diabetics by 2030. Yaad hai kya? That we had said that currently we have about 7 crore diabetics in India, and we are likely to touch the 10 crore mark in कभी 2030. पर अभी क्या है कि इंडिया इज ऑन एक्सेलरेटेड ट्रैजेक्टरी. मोदी जी वांट्स टू मेक इंडिया 5 ट्रिलियन इकोनॉमी ऑन ahead of times. We want to achieve all the targets ahead of times. So which is good, I mean, but development is good. We are and indeed achieving targets ahead of times. In illnesses also we are achieving, some targets ahead of times. So you would have read this headline that we already have touched the 10 crore. ICMR's latest epidemiology surveys, they tell us that we are already at the 10 crore diabetes mark in India. And I am sure that all of you, either yourself or have an immediate near relative in your family who is diabetic. Same is true of hypertension also. And now your turn starts, because you can't be spectators for very long. What is the prevalence of hypertension in community? Who will talk about this? किसको पता है?
So according to the recent Lancet study, 39.6% people are suffering from hypertension, 11% from diabetes, 15.6% from pre-diabetes, and about 80% from dyslipidemia.
चलो अच्छा है. इसका चॉकलेट लिस्ट में नाम लिखो. मुझे याद है इसको. चलो अब मैं तेरे से डिफिकल्ट क्वेश्चन पूछता हूँ. कितने लोग फिट है यार? तू बता मेरे को. See, there is a some concept called as ideal cardiovascular health. Ideal cardiovascular health, guys, now they did surveys in all countries. What is your guess कि कितने लोग ideal cardiovascular health में होंगे? Developed countries to whatever Africa, so from America to Africa, India included. कितने % लोग होंगे ideal cardiovascular health में?
30% around.
इसको height of optimism बोलते हैं इसको. height of optimism.
It is 7 to 10%.
तू भी थोड़ी optimistic है.
1.6.
मैडम उम्र के हिसाब से जरा पैसिमिस्टिक है थोड़ी।
5%.
5% people worldwide they found enjoy ideal cardiovascular health. Okay. तो 40% हाइपरटेंसिव हैं, whatever 11% डायबिटिक है, 15% प्री डायबिटिक है, आज न कल हो ही जाएंगे, नहीं क्या? उसी आशा में बैठे हैं बाहर के स्टॉल वाले लोग कि बाकी बच्चे हुए लोग भी थोड़े दिन में हो ही जाएंगे। साइकोलॉजिकल प्रॉब्लम्स के बारे में क्या कहना है आपका? व्हाट इज योर आइडिया अबाउट साइकोलॉजिकल प्रॉब्लम्स? पीएचडी स्टूडेंट है बराबर ना?
Yes, sir.
पता है।
Sir, I feel their prevalence is more than these NCDs because people are not ready to talk about these things. So most of the cases remains undiagnosed.
नहीं उसका भी है ना यार, एपिडेमियोलॉजी सर्वे थोड़ी हम छोड़ते थोड़ी लोगों को, हम घर घर जाके पूछते हैं लोगों को। We even did disaster epidemiology, you know, epidemiology even during the disaster times, disaster community. तो 30 साल में छोड़ेंगे थोड़ी लोग को, घर घर जाके पूछेंगे कितना होगा, क्या लगता है आपको? What may be the prevalence, you know, of what may be the prevalence of so-called common psychological problems? I'm not talking, you know, psychiatric problems. I'm talking common anxiety, depression.
Very common. Depression, anxiety. 90%.
Almost 99%.
Very common. Anxiety, depression. Maybe 70-80%, or maybe 70%.
99%. Because all
अब मेरे को पता पड़ा कि वो पूर्णिमा गौरी मैडम ना वो न्यूरोलॉजी छोड़ के साइकियाट्री में जाना चाहिए। न्यूरोलॉजी वाली 1% पॉपुलेशन है, स्ट्रोक भी एपिलेप्सी 1%। बराबर है, इंटेलिजेंट चॉइस यार, बोले 1% को देखने के लिए हजारों लोग हैं, नहीं क्या 99%? ये तो होल ओशन, बराबर है ना? होल ओशन लोग छोड़ के वो छोटा पानी की नल की लाइन में लाइन लगा रहे हैं। मैडम ज्वाइन हुई थी हमारे हॉस्पिटल में ना एज अ न्यूरोलॉजिस्ट, देन दैट इज व्हाट शी रियलाइज, शी टोल्ड मी कि उधर ना आपने देखा होगा ना नल में पानी आता है ना, क्या नल की पानी के लिए इतनी लंबी लाइन लगी हुई है। न्यूरोलॉजी के थोड़े पेशेंटों के लिए बहुत सारे न्यूरोलॉजिस्ट लगे हुए हैं। और वो बोली अरे 99% यार एंजाइटी डिप्रेशन कोई देखना नहीं उनको, नहीं क्या यार, देयर इज ओशन। सो ट्रू, what you people think is the reason for all these, you know, because few years ago we started by saying that, you know, maybe genes है यार, genes की वजह से होती है ये चीजें, नहीं क्या? अभी आपको क्या लगता है, what in kind of your own personal opinion, what do you think that कि पहले भी था इतना, even before we had these kind of prevalences, or that you really believe that increase हो रहा है? अंकों के बारे में क्या कहना है आपका? अंक के बारे में what is your view about onco? कैंसर के बारे में? चलो ठीक है यार, देख लो चेतन सर को पूछने की, चेतन सर के लिए onco, हाँ पता onco का कौन है यार? onco वाले कौन लोग हैं? onco का क्या हो रहा है यार? what is happening of onco scenario?
Sir, I think there's an increase in reporting to tertiary care. That's why there's also increasing numbers, but the lifestyle related cancers are increasing.
And increasing or getting detected more.
But lifestyle cancers are prevalent.
देखो ऐसा है ना, हाँ I'm on, please बोलिए।
You're asking the question for increasing mental illness?
नहीं onco,
Prevalence of
I don't know.
onco, okay. चलो ठीक है, अभी क्या है ना, देखो ह्यूमन बीइंग का बेसिक क्या नेचर है, दैट वी नीड सम स्केपगोट। नाउ फर्स्ट वी सेड कि टू ब्लेम द जीन्स। जीन्स खराब है यार, बाकी मैं तो फिट आदमी हूं ना, क्या मेरे फैमिली में डायबिटीज के जीन्स है, मेरे को हो गया, बाकी आई लिव आइडियल कार्डियोवास्कुलर हेल्थ मैन, यू नो। ब्लड प्रेशर तो 3 जनरेशन से चल रहा है ना अपनी फैमिली में। सो फर्स्ट वी ब्लेम द जीन्स, बराबर है? देन वी ब्लेम्ड व्हाट?
environmental factors.
Then we blamed lifestyle. People somehow, after blaming the genes for a long time, we perhaps, you know, suffered some shame. यार कितने दिन अपने पूर्वजों को बदनाम करेंगे? How long to someone, you know, might have got a brainwave कि genes को blame करना है is equivalent to actually blaming our ancestors. तो चलो ठीक है, खुद थोड़ा ब्लेम ले लो, नहीं क्या? तो इसलिए लेट अस से कि बोले ये बीमारियां सब प्रॉब्लम जो बढ़ रहा है बिकॉज़ लाइफस्टाइल, माय ओन डूइंग, नहीं क्या? मंगवाता हूँ मैं रोज पिज्जा, बट देना ऐसे कि क्यों कर रहा हूँ मैं ये, नहीं आई हैव अ गिल्ट पैन। तो ठीक है, तो इसलिए देन वी स्टार्टेड ब्लेमिंग द लाइफस्टाइल। अभी अब क्या है, अभी क्या, व्हाट डू वी ब्लेम, हु इज द फॉल गाय नाउ? सो फर्स्ट ब्लेम द एंसेस्टर्स, देन ब्लेम आवरसेल्व्स, देन वी रियलाइज्ड कि क्या यार अपन क्यों कर रहे हैं, नहीं, वी आर रियली बीइंग वेरी न्यूरोटिक वंस, वी आर अनड्यूली टेकिंग ऑल दिस ब्लेम ऑन आवरसेल्व्स। So what is the current actually idea? Current idea. एक बहुत बड़ी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है, WHO का पार्ट है, जिसको यूनिसेफ कहते हैं, सुना है क्या नाम आपने? लॉट ऑफ यू गाइस, यू सेड यू वर्क विद NGOs, दिस दैट एटसेट्रा, सुना है क्या? यूनिसेफ क्या बोला, किसको ब्लेम करो? 3C क्या है यार, ये लिखा है ना, रोल ऑफ 3C क्या है? 3C what are the 3Cs? All international agencies now they love actually these acronyms, sort of 3Cs, 4Bs, 5Cs, 4Ds. Which are the 3Cs which are like currently, and I am not joking, because there is a lot of medical research also now happening around them.
Chemicals. All endocrine disruptors.
तो डायरेक्ट एकदम वाला सद्दाम हुसैन है, एकदम डायरेक्ट क्या, सद्दाम हुसैन सीरिया केमिकल अटैक, डायरेक्ट केमिकल अटैक, नहीं यार, UNICEF is more careful, they are not talking of chemical attack yet. Although there is an important group in Brazil which researches this. This year we contacted some of them, कि आपने synapse के लिए contact किया था उनको, chemicals, environmental toxins, so serious thing, yes. Environmental toxins, exposure उसका।
Pollution is a contributory.
कौन से 3C कौन से हैं यार, बताओ ना यार, सोचो C से क्या होता है यार?
Consumerism.
3C क्या हो सकते हैं? इंटरनेशनल एजेंसी तो बड़ी बड़ी चीजें सोचेगी ना, बड़ी बड़ी चीजें टू ब्लेम थिंग्स फॉर ना। व्हाट आर द 3Cs? क्या हो रहा है? अरे बोलो ना, जोर से बोलो, जोर से बोलो। इंडिया इज एट द फोरफ्रंट ऑफ दैट, बाबा, दैट क्लाइमेट चेंज। क्लाइमेट चेंज, आपने पढ़ा है कुछ मेडिकल रिसर्च क्लाइमेट चेंज रिलेटेड? Anyone of you can enlighten us? Climate change से क्या होता है, क्या नहीं होता है? क्या होता है? What is the most prominent thing in climate change? Global warming. Okay. So global warming से क्या होता है, क्या हो सकता है? ठीक है, क्वेश्चन है, सोचो, आराम से सोचो, आंसर होने की जरूरत नहीं है। So first C is a climate change. There is a very serious effort to now look at actually the climate impact on health. Up till now we were looking at other sort of impact. Floods आते हैं, ज़्यादा बारिश होती है, what not, crops sort of go bust. But now we are very interested to look at climate, and yes, there is a good possibility we'll be talking about that who are doing that work, why are they doing that work, and what is their whole understanding. Very fascinating physiological and etiological research, related to what the climate change means and what it is causing to our health. What is the second C? Chocolate list मध्ये लिही नाव काय? Climate कोणी सांगितलं होतं? Who told climate first? He said it, okay. कल ले आएंगे, आज भूल गए चॉकलेट लाने को. Normally when people answer these, we immediately want to honor them with the chocolate. So अभी second C क्या है? Second C. What is the second C? First तो climate change हो गया. और क्या चल रहा है यार? न्यूज़ देखते हो कि नहीं यार? क्या करते हो?
Chronic stress. Any clue?
फ्लू की क्या जरूरत है? अभी क्या चल रहा है ग्लोबल स्टेज में? बड़ी बड़ी चीजें, बड़ी बड़ी चीजें क्या चल रही है यार? What are big things happening, which is affecting like billions of people? Yes, conflict. What percentage of the world currently is at official war? दुनिया में कहाँ पे वॉर चल रही है? अभी कितनी वॉर्स चल रही हैं? Declared, undeclared?
Russia,
भारत में भी चल रही है क्या वॉर? कुछ लोग बोल रहे हैं कि यहाँ वॉर चल रही है, बोलने नहीं दे रहे हैं, मार रहे हैं, दबा रहे हैं.
Internal what?
So conflict at multiple levels. So conflict is at multiple levels. Conflict not only countries fighting a war, but various different kind of conflicts. We will see that, because conflict is one of the important ideas in the neuroscience. We will also look at that why conflict happens. What is the basic reason, that why conflicts are happening? Yes, conflicts are happening everywhere. From countries fighting to what she said, she tries to work rishton ka manja, like a relationship conflicts. You see conflicts everywhere. Conflict, yes. So climate change is one. Stress, not in general. Conflict as a reason for stress. Stress can have hundreds of reasons. Conflict as a causative cause. And third one, more recent, COVID. Smart हो गया अभी तो धीरे धीरे वार्मिंग अप हो रहा है, समझ गए तीनों स्पीसीज समझ गए सबको. So the climate change and the conflict is at several levels. Several levels. We'll see that what are the external conflicts, what are the internal conflicts, which are the conflicts which are resolvable at our individual level. See, not everything we can resolve. That is what the whole idea that in public health, unfortunately, at times we witness a lot of phenomena. We cannot resolve everything, by our own selves. Some tasks are to be done at a governmental level, some tasks are done at a larger community level, some tasks are our individual self. Mind-body medicine is about individual efforts. Individual efforts, what we can do to help ourselves. Second one is, we live in an era of comorbidity. That is one of the highlights which Professor Norman Sartorius, I told you, he has been our mentor, former director of World Health Organization, he says that our entire medical education system over the years trained ourselves to deal with one illness. Speciality means one illness, one type. Come Mani. Welcome Mani. We are just sort of starting. Yeah. So according to Professor Sartorius, we as a health system are very ill-equipped to look at people having multiple problems. We are very comfortable when they have one problem, but we are uncomfortable. And how many of you sitting here, you are clinicians, you see patients. On an average, आज अपने पास एक जो patient आता है, उसको कितने diagnoses होते हैं? कितना, how many diagnoses a person has who comes to us? पहले आप बताओ, फिर मैं बताता हूँ. बोल यार, बोल मंजू. Yes.
Diabetes has many organ involvement. So diabetes with many multi-organ involvement.
Okay.
Hypertension with multi-organ involvement. Ischemic heart disease, cerebrovascular accident, acute kidney injury, CKDs, multiple.
पहले मैं सोचता था कि कम से कम एंजाइटी डिप्रेशन वालों को तो कुछ नहीं होगा. देन वैशाली मैडम से कि जो एंजाइटी वाले रिस्पॉन्ड नहीं कर रहे हैं, जरा एक बार उसका फास्टिंग इंसुलिन चेक कर ले, उसका विटामिन चेक कर ले, उसका इंसुलिन चेक कर ले, थायराइड चेक कर ले. थायराइड तो पहले भी करते हैं, we used to check thyroid before, but what we were not checking was for the insulin resistance. तो अभी क्या हो गया ना, फिर लीना मैडम बोली कि इंसुलिन रेजिस्टेंस ही का है, तो ऑटोनॉमिक डिसफंक्शन भी चेक कर ले. तो अभी ऐसा प्रॉब्लम हो गया है कि जिस किसी को देखो ना, एवरीवन हैज इंसुलिन रेजिस्टेंस, एवरीवन हैज ऑटोनॉमिक डिसफंक्शन, एंड देयर नॉन रिस्पोंडिंग इज प्रोपोर्शनेट टू दैट. जो लोग रिस्पोंड नहीं कर रहे हैं ना, so it is, you rarely find nowadays patients who come with one diagnosis. They have multiple health issues. Unfortunately, as part of our routine medical sort of a training, education, or for all health professionals, we were not really trained in this way, that how to deal with when people have, and invariably everyone has mind body issues, multiple issues, in fact not one, multiple issues. So how to deal when people present with multiple problems. So that is the second, and according to Sartorius, a very major reform. Priya said, I am very hopeful, a lot of people here are professors also in medical colleges. So in some way they will try to take it up. Gangadhar brought in the first wave of reform, putting all the NCDs together. Maybe the next wave of reform which should follow is to incorporate it as part of our training itself. Otherwise The problem is that you keep creating generations of undereducated doctors, and then Vaishali has all the onus, to call them back and sort of train them again, retrain them again. So train them in the first instance, wherein they have a view to manage multiple morbidities and both in the same individual, because there's a huge overlap between the so-called mind disorders and the other endocrine and other. She already told you that, because of the PNI connection, the psychoneuroimmune endocrinology. So there is a shared biology basically between the genes are also shared between diabetes and depression. Starting from genes itself, there is a sharing. And then the environmental factors, that blah blah blah. And psychiatric medicines, we have a speciality, we can create illnesses also. We'll talk about that. People fear therefore taking medicine nowadays. You think this is a real fear? Iatrogenic, all this term. Another one, if you don't know any term, please stop me and ask it then there. Iatrogenicity, iatrogenic means medically induced. Do you think that our interventions, our treatments, they also induce some problems? People coming often, first thing, effect होगा क्या? पहले patient मेरे को पूछता side effect क्या है सर? मैंने कहा अरे effect तो होने दे बाबा पहले, क्या side effect देखेंगे बाद में. So there are, you can say, very practical. I am not talking academic challenges. So I am talking of challenges, etiopathogenesis which is causing this. Some days back we had a workshop at Navale Medical College, and luckily our pathology HOD madam was also there, and I was very inquisitively, I asked her कि अभी Robbins की नई edition में, Robbins is the pathology book, Robbins की नई edition में बीमारी किस वजह से होती है क्या कुछ अपडेट हुआ है क्या? नहीं क्या? So maybe नहीं हुआ है तो she need to, because now the whole world is wondering that compared to the traditional factors which we thought are responsible for illness, etiology कहते हैं अपन जिसको, बीमारियां, the reasons because of which the illnesses happen, what is causative for illnesses, so whether we have to modify that, our understanding that how illnesses happen. So these are the real, therefore, practical issues, that how illnesses happen, are they really happening on much larger scale, or is it that previously we were ignorant in a bliss and now that they are really kind of happening more. And then this practical problems, that what do I do? A person, psychiatry, neuropsychiatry, ब्लड प्रेशर का पेशेंट आया तो उसको ब्लड प्रेशर के डॉक्टर के पास भेजूं, शुगर का प्रॉब्लम आया तो शुगर के डॉक्टर के पास भेजूं, लाइक शी सेड मल्टीपल प्रॉब्लम. कितने डॉक्टर के पास जाएगा यार आदमी? मैं क्या, people say in good old times there were general practitioners, नहीं, उसको सब कुछ आता था. ऐसा अपना we have a romanticized version, about general practitioner. Knowledge limited था उस वक्त, of course, people could handle more. आज knowledge भी बहुत बढ़ गया है, problems भी बहुत बढ़ गए हैं. So we really are, sort of groping with issues. I don't mean that we have real answers to all of them, but our idea is to think about them. Having spent a lot of time in this field, our idea is to also collaborate with all those people who are trying to find some of these answers to these ones. Next one, please. Okay. Next one. Next one. Already someone said that we became over a period of time, unfortunately, so lopsided. We became so focused, on the illness angle that we almost forgot health. भारत का जैसे अभी अमृत महोत्सव चल रहा है इस साल, कि इंडिया is celebrating अमृत महोत्सव of its independence. So 23 में we are also celebrating अमृत महोत्सव of the famous World Health definition of health. World Health Organization gave the definition of health in 1948. क्या definition थी वो?
State of physical.
हाँ बोलो please.
State of physical, mental, and emotional
जोर
well-being.
से.
State of physical, mental, and emotional well-being, not merely a absence of any disease.
Yes.
This is our infirmity.
Yes. So I will be very happy that any one of you here can tell me that you were taught about how to diagnose health, how to diagnose illness, how to measure illness. हेल्थ का किसी को सिखाया क्या यार कभी? I'm sure you know you all people from a very healthy, nice cross section of health givers, health professionals, not merely the medical people. ठीक है, medical people का तो बीमारी का business ही है, पर बाकी के जो लोग हैं कैसे measure करते हैं health को? How do you know that someone is healthy? Although WHO said कि absence of illness is not health, बराबर है ना? They were very clear about it. कैसे करते हैं measure health को? बोलो. How do you measure health?
What you're usually taught in mental health is whether the functionality is good and whether the person's flourishing after that.
Flourishing means what?
Whether there's goal-oriented behavior and growth-oriented behavior.
You know, flourish का क्या मतलब है? Person makes money, then he flourishes. Person has a house, then he flourishes. Person buys a Mercedes, then he flourishes. What is flourish? बोलो यार, बोलो. What is flourish?
There's goal-oriented behavior and life satisfaction, quality of life.
Sometime back, someone said that 99% are dissatisfied. They have having anxiety and depression.
1%.
अच्छा, it's good to have all these discussions. बराबर है ना? You said that. नहीं क्या? He doesn't think so. He thinks 99% people are not satisfied.
Can I add something?
Yeah, please, of course.
So first of all, based on my experience, what I learned is health is very subjective term. Second thing is you can actually use energy, enthusiasm, and immunity. These three indicators as a health. That's what.
Immunity किस चीज की?
To make sure that you will not fall sick in first place. According to Ayurveda, it is a vyadhi kshamatva. And the second thing is like.
वो बोल रहा है कि 99% लोग बीमार हैं. वो बोल रही है कि 40-50%
Yeah, exactly. So we are
लोग
not
बीमार हैं.
healthy. That's all about it.
ठीक है यार, no problem है. So that is the big problem therefore that we face, that we have forgotten health. We don't know how to measure health. जिस चीज को अपन मेजर ही नहीं कर सकते तो उसको ट्रीट क्या करेंगे ना यार. If you want to become healthy, नहीं अपने को कहना क्या है, we don't have a real definite good scientific
What
way.
we say is that operationalization of health is really not there. Operationalization of disease is there.
Yes.
That's true.
But how to operationalize health?
नहीं मैडम है ना,
Here are
डायबिटीज
the words that are there.
डायबिटीज का क्राइटेरिया बहुत क्लियर है. नहीं कहा अभी ये बोली इंतजाम अच्छा है ना, का फ्लरिश यार. तब ये फ्लरिश का क्या है ना, वो पूछा साइकोलॉजिस्ट को, किसको बताने नहीं आता फ्लरिश है ना क्या है. उसको पूछा मैं फ्लरिश हो रहा हूँ कि नहीं हो रहा हूँ. नहीं क्या मेरी तरफ देखते तो बोलते लोग यार कि आप तो एकदम मान नरिश दिख रहे हो. नहीं फ्लरिश नहीं दिख रहे हो, लैंग्वेज मान नरिश दिख रहे हो. खाने पीने मिलता होगा नहीं मिलता होगा. नहीं क्या इसलिए रोज वर्कशॉप वगैरह लेने जाता है उधर तो भी कर रहे हो, उसका काम हो जाता है. So this is a real serious issue, you know. So lack of, so WHO gave a good, nice, I mean, you know, as a good concept. Like we talk about यार कि सब लोगों ने peaceful रहना चाहिए दुनिया में. नहीं क्या सब भाई भाई हैं, हम सब लोग भाई भाई हैं, peacefully रहना चाहिए. In reality it doesn't happen, you know. So बोलो.
2 points for measuring, because like in neurology we
Yes.
have so many disorders,
Yes.
and they have different scales for measuring disabilities in different
Yes,
disorders.
yes.
But what WHO did a few years ago was develop the HUDAS scale, and they revised it to HUDAS 2.0, which is applicable to any person walking on the street, caregiver as well as patient. So disability versus functionality. that
Correct. But
became a
healthy
big
कितना है? Supposing if I ask you
Yeah.
कि we want to make a survey in this room, यार कि कौन कितना healthy है?
Yeah,
Healthiness scale.
yeah.
Illness scale नहीं, healthiness scale.
Yeah, so functionality, disability, which are a spectrum. So that.
Yeah, but that is what I am saying, that
Yeah.
it is so tentative, you know,
Yeah,
kind
it
of
is
on a
tentative.
scientific,
Yeah.
like Chatta sir, mathematics च्या अँगलनी स्टॅटिस्टिकच्या अँगलनी ते म्हणतील एक गंमत आहे सगळी. नाही का, हे काय सगळं हे अर्थ नाही याच्यात हे सगळं कोणाही पण कुठे ऍडजस्ट करू शकता याच्यात तुम्ही. नाही का, डिपेंडिंग ऑन कि मैडम आपको कितनी हेल्थ चाहिए, कितना कर दूं आपका, कितना परसेंट कर दूं बताओ. So it's an open question. We will see, you know, that what can be done about this, you know, because if our idea is to somehow get health, we should know health क्या है, you know, operational, because then only we can achieve it, ना. जिस चीज का पता ही नहीं है अपने को, नहीं क्या, वो क्या अपन उसको अटेंड करेंगे ना. नेक्स्ट वन है, ओके, एडवर्सिटी इज ऑल्सो अपॉर्चुनिटी. ऐसा कौन कौन लोग बोलते हैं? बोलो, मैडम बोलती हैं एक तरह.
Adversity is opportunity.
Adversity is opportunity. I like
Absolutely,
that.
that's the truth of life.
Absolutely.
Wherever I have
Wonderful.
been in pain in my life, I have grown on at that.
Wonderful, madam. I am so lucky, so thankful. So you have joined now the Select 3 ka club. You know who are the 2 other members who talk about adversity as the opportunity? In your company, August company, one is Mr. Narendra Modi, who says convert adversity into opportunity. And the second guy, my favorite philosopher, mathematician, Nicholas Nassim Taleb.
Nassim Nicholas.
इसलिए अभी क्या हुआ कि न्यूयॉर्क में ना मोदी जी और तालिब मिले थे अभी they met each other. आपने देखा न्यूज में भी आया था that there was a तालिब was the one of the most important person with whom Modi met. क्योंकि मोदी बोला अपन दोनों एक जैसे ही सोचते हैं यार. उसने बोला मोदी जी ने पूछा था उसको कि तू पहले गुजराती था क्या पूछने क्या एडवर्सिटी को अपॉर्चुनिटी. पर सही बात है ना. So तालिब has written a very famous book called as Anti-Fragility. That in a chaos situation, how can you be anti-fragile? How can you really find an opportunity? Okay. थोड़ा मागे घेऊन जा, थोड़ा मागे घेऊन जा. एक एक करू आपण. So one such opportunity could be that because we already spoke so much about कि all NCDs are connected, PNI connection. देशमुख मैडम ने ऑलरेडी बताया अपने को साइको न्यूरो इम्यून इमेक्राइन कनेक्शन which connects all the non-communicable diseases. So can there be a common treatment? नहीं क्या अभी तो अपन सारी NCDs की अलग-अलग ट्रीटमेंट करते हैं. ठीक है, थोड़ा-थोड़ा कुछ अलग रहेगा, but can there be a possibility that there is something common, which can be offered to all the NCD patients? Okay, that is one opportunity. तो अच्छी बिजनेस अपॉर्चुनिटी है सबको बाबा. जिसको नया ट्रीटमेंट बनाना होगा उसको अच्छा एरिया है उधर कॉमन ट्रीटमेंट बनाने का. ओके, नेक्स्ट वन. सो सेकंड अपॉर्चुनिटी इज दैट टारगेटेड इंटरवेंशंस. वैशाली मैडम ने और वैजंती मैडम ने अभी दे मेड सम सर्वेज, एंड वैजंती मैडम भी है इधर और वैशाली मैडम भी इधर. मैं दे मेड सम सर्वेज इन देयर कैंप्स. And 85% of their patients, they reported that they are using some or other kind of measures for personal well-being. Normally, we don't ask them that कि आप लोग क्या करते हो अपनी health के लिए. So it looks like that people are quite interested. Consumers are quite interested to do something for their own health. 85% नहीं कमाल. So there is a good chance that maybe we could only that thing we need to do since the morning. Again, to underline the point that Vaishali madam made, that rather than being very general about yoga or meditation or this or that, we perhaps need to be, as we can learn possibly from the science of pharmacology कि वहाँ पे जैसे treatments को specifically targeted बनाया जाता है, targeted करने की कोशिश की जाती है. Can we have that, that rather than some general models, can there be specifically targeted treatments? Okay, next one. बात तो हर कोई करता है प्रिवेंशन की. देखा अनदर गुड पॉलिटिकल थिंग टू ऑलवेज टॉक. प्रिवेंट करेंगे प्रॉब्लम. तो क्या इज इट अ रियलिटी? प्रेडिक्टिव मेडिसिन. कैन वी प्रेडिक्ट अहेड ऑफ टाइम कि किसको क्या प्रॉब्लम हो रहा है. ना कभी मंजुल मैडम शी सेड कि डायबिटिक है तो उसको बहुत सारे कॉम्प्लिकेशंस नेचुरल कोर्स में होते हैं. मधुलिका. ओह सॉरी, मधुलिका. मंजुल इज बड़ी बहन है. सो मधुलिका मैडम सेड कि डायबिटीज है तो बहुत सारे कॉम्प्लिकेशन होंगे. So is there a chance, can we recognize people कि जिनको ये complication हो रही है? And lot of research currently is happening about that. Can we predict the patients कि जिनको अभी heart attack की risk है, kidney fail होने की risk है? Can we sort of elevate their level of care so that they are saved of those complications? Next. Already we spoke about this. Next. And can these interventions go to large number of people? Okay, so whichever way you look at it, whether you look at it as a researcher or an academician or a teacher or a business person, there is a huge scope for all of you to do these activities. Next one. Next, what is new in medicine? Conclusively established that mind affects health in a big way, both negatively and positively. Very conclusively established. Okay. Second is that health is not all or none, but grades of health. There are grades of health. Less health, more health, more health, less illness, more illness. The idea of allostatic load, people later are going to talk about that. And we are also going to talk about this biophysical phenotype, maybe a neologism, new term for you. We'll talk later about that. Next. So there are a lot of new things happening in medicine in general. Next. So some centuries ago, there was a split. People thought that mind is too abstract, too philosophical, and cannot therefore be researched, because we can only research something which is more tangible, physical. So this split apparently happened next. But over last century, there have been lot of research activity. Many of you may be aware of that. I have highlighted only a couple of them. One is related to the involvement of the HP axis, cortisol, as part of the psychological stress. That is related at the beginning, you can say, of the PNI. So the hormone came in, then came in the immune system, and then sort of everything. And then we also know that this can be changed. So it is not that we will be passive recipients of it all. We can change this situation. Next. Someone said that differences in COVID. So yes, it happens with every virus. Mere exposure to virus does not lead to illness. People did this very interesting trial many years before COVID. It was published in one of the very famous journals called New England Journal of Medicine 30 years ago. People exposed to common cold viruses, not everybody got common cold. People, those who were more stressed, they got the clinical syndrome. So if immunity goes down, you are vulnerable. Next. Okay, this is Nina's MD thesis. Left hand side is a Vistar rat. You imprison the rat, and the rat experiences fall of immunity. So rats also like to be free. It's not only human beings who love to be free. Everyone enjoys freedom. So rats their immunity becomes down, you free them, their immunity comes up again. Next. Okay, so again, whole long list. Very interestingly, a lot of this research happened in cardiology for some reason. Cardiologists were somehow very interested. Although today you find that they are more interested in interventions, I mean the angiography and angioplasty. But once upon a time, their ancestors were quite interested in mind. So they did a lot of research. In fact, they did so much research which even the psychiatrists and psychologists also did not do. The entire positive psychology is courtesy cardiologists. Okay, so they did all this and they found all these different type A behavior pattern and negative emotions and coronary thrombosis and all these things. Even Herbert Benson, the so-called father figure in mind-body medicine, was also a Harvard cardiologist. Okay, so now what we have, conclusion, meta-analysis, depression, anxiety, anger, hostility as independent risk factors for illness. So irrespective of your genes, irrespective of your lifestyle, if you have these things, they are direct positive risks for the illnesses. And on the positive side, if you have the opposite, positive psychological well-being, two parts, technically one part is a more hedonistic, pleasure satisfaction oriented, second part more meaningful oriented, it leads to protection. Next. So mind is very important regulator of health. There is no doubt today to the world of medicine that mind is an important regulator of health. And therefore the whole idea, single idea in mind-body medicine is our ability to regulate our mind and thereby regulating our health. So mind is the, you can say, the pathway through which we are trying to regulate our health. Okay? And because of all this research, it is on strong biological footing also. Okay, next. Next. Okay, so this is we are going to talk more about this. How to do these measurements, different grades of health. Resilient means someone who is naturally less prone to have problems. And then you have these different grades of health. Next. So it's not just two categories. Illness and health, and in between this yellow zone, allostatic load, people are going to talk a lot about that. What is that? How to measure that? How to know that someone has allostatic load? Next. Okay, now we come here. What is new in mind science? Next. When I was a resident, that time the understanding was that brain is one organ. Today the understanding is that brain is actually many organs, which are connected. माइथोलॉजी में कौन सा ऐसा फिगर है कि जिसको बहुत सारे हेड्स रहते हैं? Every mythology has this. Every mythology. Indian mythology has Ravan. Greek mythology. इधर से वाणी has awakened. चलो वाणी क्या आवाज है? हाइड्रा नहीं क्या? तो क्या है बाबा, हाइड्रा की क्या स्टोरी है और रावण की क्या स्टोरी है और मल्टीपल हेड की? बहुत ज्ञानी थे पुराने लोग, वही अपन बोल रहे हैं, पुराने लोग बहुत ज्ञानी थे, उनको न्यूरोसाइंस पहले ही पता पड़ गया था सब। हाइड्रा की क्या स्टोरी है? वाणी को छोड़ के, नहीं का वाणी ने तो बोला है, वाणी को पता रही है ना, और किसी को पता? हाइड्रा सुना है क्या? हाइड्रा
Cut off one head, another comes.
यस, बायोलॉजी में भी पढ़ा था अपने को सर ने, क्या हाइड्रा, यू कट ऑफ वन हेड अनदर वन कम्स आउट, बराबर है ना? तो माइंड में है ना अलग अलग नेटवर्क रहते हैं, ओके? द माइंड इन द ब्रेन देयर आर मल्टीपल नेटवर्क्स एंड ऑल दीज नेटवर्क्स ना दे आर सॉर्ट ऑफ कॉम्पिटिंग विथ ईच अदर। आपने कभी नेटवर्क फील किए हैं क्या यहाँ पर? हैव यू फेल्ट दीज नेटवर्क्स? न्यूरोलॉजी मैडम का क्या कहना है? You felt these networks, or you think that it is only possible to see them through the fMRI?
No, I feel they can be felt.
Yes, you are right. We are going to feel them this afternoon. Our idea is to feel our own brain networks and also experience the way यहाँ पे जो ये लिखा है ना, many minds and competition for dominance. So we have many cells within us, which they all are trying to sort of capture, dominate the so-called self. Okay. Next. Technical term, predictive coding. Chadda sir will again love it because it's from the mathematical statistical ideas. Simply stated, mind is always imagining. अभी तक सुना था कि हार्ट में पेसमेकर होता है, पता है आपको सबको ना? मैक्सिमम पेसमेकर कहाँ पे होते हैं? ब्रेन में होते हैं मैक्सिमम। कितने पेसमेकर होते हैं ब्रेन में? गूगल करके आना चलो लंच ब्रेक में, ओके? नेक्स्ट वन। सो माइंड इज ऑलवेज इन द स्टेट ऑफ क्रिएटिंग समथिंग, इमेजिनिंग समथिंग, इवन इन योर स्लीप आल्सो ना, दैट्स व्हाई यू गेट ड्रीमिंग आल्सो। नाउ पीपल से कि कोमा में का आदमी भी है ना, वो भी चालू रहता है, उसका भी दिमाग चालू रहता है कोमा में के आदमी का। केयरफुली बोलना इसलिए कोमा के आदमी के सामने, बाद में याद रखिएगा, बाद में याद रखेगा नहीं क्या, जब खड़ा होगा तो याद मेरे को तू क्या क्या बोला था उधर राउंड में आके, मुझे सब याद है, तो इसलिए कोमा के पेशेंट के साथ में बहुत केयरफुल रहो। Very interesting thing, new homunculus, last just couple of months back published in journal called Nature, considered to be the highest science, new homunculus, inner fusion। देखेंगे क्या है ना, क्या फ्यूजन म्यूजिक। चलो नेक्स्ट, बायोरिदम्स, इवन मोर इंटरेस्टिंग, आउटसाइड इनसाइड फ्यूजन, मैक्रोकॉस्म माइक्रोकॉस्म फ्यूजन। चलो नेक्स्ट, मेटाकॉग्निशन, इनर विजन, ऑब्जर्विंग द रेगुलेटर, दैट इज द माइंड, ओके, द सो कॉल्ड माइंडफुलनेस और द मेडिटेशन एटसेट्रा। So our ability to observe the regulator, but the last one is perhaps the most important for mind body medicine, the regulating the regulator itself. If you consider mind and its physical substrate to a large extent is the brain, then how to regulate actually the regulator itself? The art and science, therefore mind body medicine is perhaps the art and science of regulating the regulator itself. Next. ओके, मल्टिपल ऑफ दीज। वैशाली मॅडम, आपल्याला किती वेळ आहे?
ते म्हणतात लंच सर्व केलेलं आहे.
Okay.
We can continue afterward. So you can take a break where you feel you can.
ठीक है, we will do one exercise.
One exercise we can do.
One exercise, ओके? एक काम कर, आता ते लाईट बंद कर, आपण पहिली एक्सरसाइज करू ना ब्रेन नेटवर्कची, ओके? आणि ते म्युझिक लाव, त्या ती स्लाइड दाखवून दे, ती स्लाइड दाखवून दे सगळ्यांना। नेक्स्ट स्लाइड। So there will be some music, okay? You listen to this music and then we will discuss about that. एक आंसर करने की जरूरत नहीं, जनरल you can tell.
Okay, so when the music started, suddenly I felt that instead of clapping, it's some sound of water, and I was trying to figure out what exactly the music is. And then I started thinking initially that the music is from Bombay music, and the Manisha Koirala came in front of me, and then I said, no, this is a Titanic music. So I switched that, this is a Titanic music, and then both the hero and heroine came in front of me, like, okay, that scene of Titanic and everything. And then slowly I started focusing on the music, and mainly my focus was the beats and which instruments they are using in the music. Finally I just felt, oh, this is Titanic music only, and that's all. So most of the answers were like.
चलो अच्छा है यार, तेरा ब्रेन काफी घूम गया है। मनीषा कोइराला से लेके तो बीट से लेके तो छोड़ सब झंझटने का, टाइटैनिक का म्यूजिक है, सुन अपना दिमाग को बोल।
So I started listening to the music. I was completely concentrated to the type of the music. It started with the waves of sea and it ends at the waves of sea. In between there is very melodious sounds with the flute and violin. So that time I was feeling very soothing, calm. In between there was zoom, that music. So that time I felt a little stressed. So I was completely into that music.
अच्छा है, म्यूजिशियन क्या? ग्रेट म्यूजिशियन। पहचान लेते हैं, देख हम लोग क्या बता रहे हैं ना, उनका दिमाग से हम बता सकते हैं पूरा। और कोई इधर, चलो इधर है यार, इधर के लोग बोलो। Speak यार, everyone speak, your own experiences. We are all different human beings. Everyone is going to have different human experiences, and you please be free, to speak about your experience.
Actually, when the music started, I was totally in that zone, in music zone. So first it started with rain. Means I was in the boat in the ocean near beach, and
दिख रहा था, visual दिख रहा था।
Okay. So because I recently had a trip there, so that's why. So पूरा मतलब फ्रेंड्स के साथ थी मैं, फिर उधर वायलिन वगैरह प्ले, बोर्ड पे म्यूजिशियंस थे, वायलिन प्ले कर रहे थे, देन आई एंड माय फ्रेंड्स वर डांसिंग, एंड देन उसके बाद फिर धीरे धीरे we got tired, and at the end we slept.
अच्छा है, उनको दूसरों को। Other people, anyone else on this table, you like to share your experience? बोलो यार, बोलो आराम से बोलो।
So when I was listening, actually myself and my friend sang this music when we were in 12th. So we went back to that memory, how we practiced, how we came up on stage, how these things happened. So I went back to that memory, and I was enjoying that music.
12th memory.
Yeah.
12th memory, फ्रेंड्स के साथ बीच पे और क्रूज पे गई थी, उसकी मेमोरी। इसको मनीषा कोइराला से लेके तो टाइटैनिक तक की मेमोरी। और कोई इधर के टेबल में?
I was the Kate Winslet, and my
Congratulations.
and the partner with me was Leonardo.
Jason, you have seen yourself like this?
Absolutely, I see myself like that all the time.
इधर के टेबल पे That is what it is यार, सर ने बोला था कि अभी एज क्या होती है नहीं होती है, अभी दिखेगा जैसे प्रोसीडिंग बढ़ेगी वर्कशॉप की, देखोगे धीरे धीरे। बोलो।
First of all, I'm used to doing meditation, so I imagine myself sitting on the bank of river as this water sound started, and surprisingly this time there was Sri Krishna playing बांसुरी for me. That was new thing for me.
Wonderful यार, तो टाइटैनिक में भी श्री कृष्ण दिखे। ये तो पहली बार किया है यार, अभी तक मैंने कई बार कुछ वर्कशॉप में प्ले किया है ना, अभी तक श्री कृष्ण किसी ने नहीं देखा था। हालांकि this is a creative interpretation of.
And when I started listening to the music, my 1.5-year-old kid came into imagination, and I was completely smiling throughout the session, and it was a wonderful experience. So I was just imagining about both of my kids. And
नहीं कृष्ण है तो फिर छोटा बच्चा भी रहेगा यार, nothing illogical। तो और भी कोई बोलना चाहते हैं इधर के टेबल में?
so that was one thing, and I was like, so obviously there's a lot of documentary streaming, and I went down that rabbit hole as well. So that was one part, and then the other was I was
analyzing the orchestra arrangement. And what I was thinking was, what composer haven't I listened to in a while? I need to go back and listen to them.
इसी को है ना साइकोलॉजी में इसीलिए इसको इंक ब्लॉट या प्रोजेक्टिव टेस्ट कहते हैं कि आदमी का जो नरेशन है ना वो सुन के वो किस फील्ड में है उसकी क्या पर्सनैलिटी है सब बता सकते हैं जन्म कुंडली उसकी चल कोई अच्छा है यार कि इसने म्यूजिक सुना नरेशन सुना कंपोज
My thoughts not gone much back or in future also. The one thing at the peak of the music in that Titanic music, that was vibrations all over my body, and suddenly Buddha's might come into front of my face. So I was into the music till last, and nothing came into my other friends nor anything.
It was totally in the present.
Could I?
Yeah, Baba.
Yeah. No, so when I was visualizing the movie Titanic, and then of course I did think about my husband. And usually when he travels, I always listen to the songs that we both like. Most of those melodious romantic songs. So
Favorite song list.
yes. And then there's another band called Chords, CORRS, and they are majorly into flute. So I was thinking about that band, full of women, and it's very soothing. So I was thinking about that, and I have 2 cats at home, so I was just visualizing them as well, because it's always like I play that and then I'll be working at home.
I totally agree. Yeah. Women company is totally pleasing and soothing, no doubt.
And of course, Leonardo, I Kate Winslet then and now. I was thinking, because recently we watched something on Netflix, Kate Winslet's program. There was a series, so I was thinking how she looked then and now, and then how soothing music is. And I should listen to music more to calm myself.
Future hint also she got, from this insight that she should do this more. So, good. Yes.
Yes, sir. First when the music began, I was so excited to know what music we were going to play, because
you started analyzing right from the beginning.
Yeah. So what music we were going to play? Then when the Titanic music started, I became very emotional. It's a very emotional romantic story, right? So I was almost about to cry, like how we normally, the emotion that we got attached to Titanic, we watched it again and again. So I was almost about in tears, and then I focused on the music, got relaxed and calm till the very end. Did not get distracted to and fro. And then once the music stopped, I released myself. I felt not that.
Very nice. Yeah. So we are going to discuss these after lunch. Don't worry. What these experiences mean, in terms of the brain networks which you are talking. Sir, तुम्हारा क्या बोला तेरा?
I think I was just with the music. It's fantastic. I identified Titanic right away with the music. It was just with the music. No,
Just with the
music.
Sir, I'll share.
हाँ.
My worry was, I was not at the music. I said that the music like someone बड़ा हुई.
Okay. And as an organizer, very was realistic. ना लोग बोलेंगे music. लोग बोलेंगे day 1 पे music खिला के छोड़ दिया ना क्या? लोग बोलेगा कि वो गीता मैडम के साथ conspiracy में कुछ intermittent fasting का experiment चालू हो गया ठीक है? इन्हें नाम म्यूजिक का बताया और एक्सपेरिमेंट इंटरमिटेंट फास्टिंग का कर रहे हैं। बॉडी फील कैसा है आपका प्री लंच बॉडी फील कैसा है तो जरा 1 मिनट खुद से कनेक्ट करो वो भरो और लेट अस प्रोसीड टू लंच वी डिस्कस ऑल दिस एंड मोर when we assemble after the lunch. Okay, so there is a real lunch, no problem.
Yeah, I hope it doesn't get
Lunch not as an idea, but lunch as a physical entity definitely there.
After food, all of this are having changed from lightness to heaviness. Because the amount, it seems like blood circulation is moving towards my GI tract.
चांगलं यार, गीता's day is made यार. She realized कि food takes you from light to darkness, okay? From lightness to darkness. बराबर ना? From lightness to darkness. So, either, yes, go ahead, you have a mic.
My experience is totally ulta. I had a hot water and after that salad. So I was totally full. While going to the lunch area, I was telling madam, I'm so much full, I can't eat only. So in spite of seeing lot of delicious food, I could have eaten only kulfi and juice. So it was.
Otherwise, you have eaten. If it would have been served, that hot water and.
I would have eaten nicely.
That's an all he needs training in life. He needs training in life. Better things are going to come. He missed all those pleasures. He was conned by the people who offered him hot water. You should not have got conned, by the people who gave you hot water.
And after that, I had a little bit of walk. And after coming back up, now I'm feeling very light.
Very light.
So I can eat after some time again.
So please note that. Good. So food had a different experience for her, and not having food had a different experience. So if you want to feel light, you should not have food. If you want to feel heavy, you should have food. That is any other people other than lightness, heaviness, any other experiences? Yeah.
So before food, I was feeling very cold and very dull. And after having food, I'm like warmth. I'm feeling warmth in my body.
Very good.
Because the AC is switched off.
Stomach is also full.
Yes.
So after food, my alertness is reduced.
Okay.
I am towards more on the right
Wonderful.
side now.
Thank
It was better.
Thank you for telling me that. Good.
After food, like I had very less, but after water I had, after that I'm feeling more alert. Instead of
After eating your own alert?
Yeah.
No, I'm
feeling
sleepy.
more alert.
Good. Bola sir.
Before going for lunch, I decided that now it is a good thing where I have a warm water and salad, so I should eat less carb.
Yes.
So I have not taken rice and chapati. Then I taken everything else. But at the end, when I finished my plate and kept it, I think I want something. So I eaten a sweets at the end.
Kulfi was the best part.
So again going to carb.
So, neutral.
Bolo.
Neutral.
कुछ नहीं हुआ.
No craving for any sweet.
Yeah.
Normally, I was forced to eat by Geeta Tarun. My friend was the one who pushed and said, eat once. Didn't feel it.
The alertness hasn't changed, which is good.
Yeah.
And wasn't craving sweet. So usually I'm somebody who's sweet tooth. Been craving today.
Pre-fuel, I mean, after the music, I felt sleepy. After that, after eating, I'm feeling much better.
So different people have different experiences, but the best part is that they are able to.
I think sir, alertness should be asked after 1 or 2 hours. The postprandial phase actually starts afterwards. So maybe that alertness will change.
I think what you decide in your mind, if you're going to feel done, you're going to feel done. If you're going to feel alert, you're going to feel alert.
वैजयंती मॅडम आणि चड्डा मॅडम दोघांनी चांगला नवा कॉन्सेप्ट दिला. दे आर सेइंग दैट ऑल दीस पीपल आर प्लेसिबो हेवियर्स एंड अलर्टर्स. अभी तो वो फेज आया ही नहीं जिसमें डर लगेगा, नहीं क्या? बराबर, सही बात है, सही बात है. So this is just their imagination. That is what we are talking, that brain can keep imagining things. पता ही नहीं पड़ता है सत्य क्या है और असत्य क्या है. Insight. So anyway, so you take this handbook back home, okay, and try and do this exercise a little bit. Because as we will see that the so-called mindfulness could be of multiple types, and it is not just one type. This is about the inner perceptions which you are getting, whether it is hot or cold, whether it is heavy or light, or whether the temperature or your alertness, these different variables. So we basically have sensors for all these. Normally we are not attentive actually to these sensors, but we can easily, as you just now saw so the so-called mindfulness could be very instantaneous also. Food is sufficient, for you to do this experiment or for anybody to do this experiment. Before, after, this is a classical design in science, that you first check that, then you have something, then you check yourself again and see the difference. Our brain is extremely nice at picking up the difference. Brain cannot pick up absolute, but brain can pick up the difference very quickly. पहले ऐसा लग रहा था, अभी ऐसा लग रहा है. Experimental way, you can try. So you will know, that what thing really creates certain comfort for you, what thing really creates certain discomfort for you. Okay. Let us now go back to वाणीनी ते खूप काय कुठे गेला तो शीट. हां तर आपण ते एक स्लाइड मागे जाऊ जरा. So their sharp statistical brain in the meantime they computed, nahi ka? They said that most people are visual. See, these are the different networks you can identify. I will tell you those who are uninitiated what they are, but visual is related to the visual perception. Sensory motor is related to some of these other experiences. This is for attention, this is auditory. So many people, as per our music experiments are visual, you say, were more.
Yeah. Visual imagery. Visual was lots.
So we were talking that there are many different heads within one head, many different minds. So these are the many different minds you can say. Now in most individuals, the visual mind picked up that music. बरोबर है ना? Normally music we think is connected with auditory. बरोबर है ना? Normally कहते हैं अपन ऐसा ना कि music is connected with auditory. But music, through this experiment we saw actually that most people have a visual appetite. आदमी का जो vision mind है, vision mind is more attracted towards
music. Vision. Images.
Yes, visual images. क्या लगता है आपको, आपका क्या एक्सपर्ट ओपिनियन है इसके बारे में? नहीं, कॉमन सेंस टेल्स अस कि ऑडिटरी यहाँ पे आप देख रहे हो कि it is the visual, which got activated in most people.
The auditory is going towards the visual. You are listening, and then that the visual mind is activated.
Yes. Through.
So music is activating.
So auditory is also activated,
Mm-hmm.
leading to visual.
But it is not limited to auditory activation.
It is great.
It starts the simple. I am sure you would have listened to this music many times, isn't it?
Yes.
Perhaps first time we would realize कि इससे बहुत सारी चीजें हो रही है. It evoked many strong memories in many people. Starting from Lord Krishna to the kid, to the hero heroine, to the beach, to the cruise, different kinds.
And the interesting part was that the question was listen to music. So
Task क्या थी? What was the task? What was the task?
Listen.
Close your eyes.
And then
Close your eyes.
Close your eyes and listen to music.
Listen to music. बाकी का टास्क करने को बोला था क्या?
वो तो होता ही है ना.
Exactly. This is what default is.
Yes. Automatic होता है.
This is what
Automatic. This is the automatic brain which is active all the time and it decides what it wants to do. हिंदी सबको आती है ना थोड़ी थोड़ी. there is a term called as manmani. What is the meaning of manmani?
Manmarji.
Manmarji. What is manmarji?
Without thinking anything.
Involuntary.
Whatever. Whim.
Manmani, we often have this feeling. That's why I said that even with the smallest experience in life, there are many minds, many of these areas in brain which are competing. कि कौन बॉस है? Okay, अभी एक्शन तो बहुत सिंपल थी ना. Close your eyes. Close your eyes किसको करना है? Close your eyes मोटर को करना है. बराबर ना? You have to give a command to close the eyes, na? Shut your eyelids. Okay. One motor command, and then second there is a sensory command which is auditory. Close your eyes and listen to music. But what you see that in addition to kind of doing that, brain also does lot of other activity which it is not required to do actually. Continuously करता है. Okay. This is called as the default state. This is the activity which is active 24/7 in all of us. We do not appreciate how much computing the brain necessarily or unnecessarily doing. Neurology madam will tell us कि brain का वजन तो केवल 1.5 किलो होता है ना क्या मालूम, पर brain का एनर्जी कंज्यूम 60 किलोग्राम के आदमी में केवल 1.5 किलो का ऑर्गन है, 1/50th एनर्जी कितनी कंज्यूम करता है ब्रेन पता है आपको? 20% of our total energy is consumed by this small 1 kilogram organ, 1.5 kilogram. तो वो तो understandable है क्योंकि it is not even with the simplest, in the simplest activities, the brain is doing multitasking. मैनेजमेंट में आजकल एक गलत चीज बताते हैं कि मल्टीटास्किंग कैसे करना वो सिखाना है. तो मल्टीटास्किंग तो कर ही रहा है ब्रेन, अननेसेसरी मल्टीटास्किंग चल रही है. So one of the tasks therefore is that how to sort of reduce this unnecessary activity in the brain, because as you would have realized we spoke about conflict. So a lot of these regions they are actually competing with each other and they are sort of कि किसको अपना chance मिले. Every brain network is trying to react to that simple stimulus. In your brain you had food, there are multiple networks which are struggling, which are fighting with each other कि मेरे को attention मिले. इस खाने को मैं assess करूंगा, इस खाने को मैं react करूंगा. Not one, multiple. Okay? This simple experiment is therefore to bring to the awareness of all of us something which is so common sense and yet we are totally unaware. We have been listening to music for I think ever since we were all small kids. But until we did this experiment, we would not know कि अपने दिमाग में इतना कुछ चलता है. तो कहाँ से आ रहा है ना, कुछ भी आ रहा है. Randomness, there is some randomness also about it. Now this default network by the way is the one which is also active in the sleep also, responsible mainly for the dreams also. अब dream का पता है आपको ना, dreams are a lot of times dreams are very random, unconnected. So there's lot of random activity is continuously happening in the brain, which is like a noise in the brain. It's a noise, which is continuously affecting you and which you even do not realize. Okay, which is consuming a lot of your energy and which is interfering with lot of your activities. Okay, so let us see what we can do about this first point, most important point there, that this default state. In fact, there is a lot of research about the default state now in neuroscience, and they found that the so-called psychiatric disorder in most of the condition, the default state has become even more active. So the so-called worrying, so-called anxiety, so-called brooding is all nothing but actually just an increased default state activity, which in diabetes and thyroid nearly a lot of people have. And therefore, I am thankful to those people that they also provide me a little bit livelihood. Vaishali refers to them With a very small intervention, this can be managed. Okay, small dose of medicine, small intervention. Okay, so please keep this in mind. The default state. Default state, very powerful network, tries to sort of hijack literally. This default network is literally hijacking. मेमोरी में से कुछ भी कंटेंट आता है पर से लोग अलग अलग पीपल हैव डिफरेंट एक्सपीरियंसेस विद इट अंकित क्या होता है वाणी अनयूजुअल यूजुअल वंस
Recent news and about
bodily sensations.
bodily sensations.
yes bodily sensations bodily sensations कहाँ से आते हैं where do they come from bodily sensations bodily sensations come from one level below autonomic nervous system ये तो केवल they are only superficial networks the so called cognitive networks इसमें अभी मैंने आपको emotional I have not yet shown you actually the emotional networks and the real reward and punishment networks and the hunger and all the primal drives and all that brain में बहुत competition है बाबा brain में जैसे political party में vote के लिए competition है and as you know that they can go to any extent to get the votes. So similarly, every brain area can also go to any extent to get its attention. उद्या बोलणार आहे ना तुम्ही? परवा. So she has offered me 10 minutes space in her. That's what I am going to talk that about the food. You know what all things are sort of. Food के टाइम में नहीं notice किया क्या? क्या-क्या झगड़ा कर रहे थे? कौन-कौन से पार्ट झगड़ा कर रहे थे? म्यूजिक में जैसे किया वैसे फूड में क्या क्या झगड़ा हो रहा था
ख्याल नहीं आया आउटवर्डली क्योंकि ध्यान था ना पूरा बातों में ध्यान था
माइंड बोलने का
बातें कर रहे थे ना एक्सटर्नली पूरा चल रहा था तो एक्चुअली वो खाने पे ध्यान ही नहीं था
So lot of our activity is very automatic, you know. Daily activity अपन जो करते हैं ना, it doesn't come to our notice, but lot of our daily life is unfortunately very automatic. हाँ, बोलो यार.
He said continuous choice of food and then later we succumb to temptation.
Yes.
So, starting with mindfulness and then.
Yes. Then another hijack कर लिया दूसरे ने. In old time Hindi movies, you know, they used to show the ego and alter ego. There used to be a dialogue between ego and alter ego. खा ले कौन देख रहा है? मैं कहा your ego is telling खा ले कौन देख रहा है? मैं कहा alter ego says नहीं मैंने खाना नहीं. मैं कहा finally you know that who wins. So this simple therefore music experiment and as I said we should acknowledge the good in good scientific tradition that people who do research on these lines. There is a very interesting specialized group in Berlin University which specifically researches, you know, related to psychology and music. They of course, you know, come up with different kind of things like that. We got our inspiration from them. We did not steal from them, but we got our inspiration from them. And we found that, so the questionnaire part is sort of something which we try to derive from them. But this music experiment we found is a very simple experiment to demonstrate to people. You can demonstrate it to your patients also, you know, that how their brains are, because we are not aware of it, you know, that so many activities are happening parallel में अपने दिमाग में कितना चल रहा है दिमाग यार कितना चलाओगे ना शांत करो दिमाग को ओके माइंडफुल गुड तथा है ना अपन क्या करूँ कि आई थिंक दे हैव गॉट द पॉइंट देयर फॉर कि इसमें डिफॉल्ट स्टेट में मेमोरी से कंटेंट आ रहा है बहुत सारी चीजों से आ रहा है ना विजुअल से आ रहा है ऑडिटरी से आ रहा है मेमोरी से आ रहा है लॉट ऑफ सोर्सेज यू नो दैट होल सॉर्ट ऑफ द थिंग इज कमिंग सो वी आर गोइंग टू देयरफॉर आल्सो टॉक टुडे सॉरी
Default, can you explain it a little bit more about default style?
Yes, so default basically is an engineering term. From engineering it has been borrowed by the medical people. Default means that something even when nothing is happening is continuously on. That is therefore called as a default state. And when you are not doing
In the absence of active choice.
exactly. So in the absence of active choice also something which is automatically happening all the time. That is the default.
I understand what it means.
Yeah.
In our body, does
Yeah.
it has to do something with like food? Means like my all experiences are based on my childhood, my behavior, even my experiences are my brain is driving from that.
Yes.
That's what.
Yes.
Is that like what my default is?
That was the beginning of modern psychology. अपने एक फ्रॉइड अंकल थे, उन्होंने वही बोला था कि अपनी बचपन की मेमोरीज, that is how actually is the beginning, you can say, of modern psychology. Of course, modern psychology moved on a great lot, but that is where it began. You know, wherein actually the early psychologists, they found that how some childhood experiences get encoded in our memory, and those experiences even in adulthood can actually be determining, you know, a lot of our choices without even we realizing. We don't know that why we have certain specific preferences, why we hate something, why we like something. That has got, like, it's all coming from there, default. Okay, so human default is one of the most, you can say, powerful force. Okay, we would like to learn here how to harness that. Okay, it's like Indian tradition क्या है? Which image comes to your mind? What is a representation of a force which needs to be harnessed? बताओ, Indian mythology, Indian images. कुरुक्षेत्र में यार, और हाँ? What is Gangadhar? What is the story of Gangadhar?
गंगाचा प्रवाह त्यांनी जटामध्ये ठेवून तिचा प्रवाह
Gangadhar was named given Ganga को जिसने धरा. Ganga apparently was coming down with a huge force, and the person who mastered the art, you know, that how to sort of harness the force. Okay, that is one mythological thing. Gangadhar. Animal kingdom में किसको माना है strength का? Which animal is considered as the real symbol of strength? Elephant. तो elephant का क्या रहता है? Elephant के सिर पे अंकुश. Okay, we'll learn that. Don't worry. Here itself. Okay, you will not go without learning. Now you that realize that there is some tremendous force within you, tremendous power within you. It's like an atomic power, it's like a nuclear power. You know, either it is sort of will destroy you, it will push you to a lot of inner stress, conflict, psychiatric issues, or on the other hand, this force can be harnessed also. You can capture this force. You can capture this force and make use of some of the best productive things in life. बोलिए सर.
ऐसा brain अभी हुआ कि when we were Homo sapiens and then we developed, and the brain was like that only at that time also?
Wonderful.
Evolution.
This is a great question. Yes, every animal is endowed with this activity called default state. Okay? People did a lot of experiment. Ethology बोलते हैं ना, animal experiment. All of you would have sit and seen kitten. Cat के बच्चे देखें क्या घर में? क्या करते हैं वो? What all the animal cubs do? वो क्या करते हैं बचपन में? What is that play activity about?
झगड़ा
क्या करते हैं वो? सारे क्या करते हैं? छोटे जो एनिमल्स होते हैं एकदम, particularly all the fighting types, you know, carnivores. What they do? All the carnivores.
They stop and
Training.
फाइटिंग करते हैं.
हाँ, ट्रेनिंग करते हैं. उनको जो circuitry with which they are born, they sort of keep practicing that. Default state is the hallmark of every type of brain. जब से ब्रेन नाम की चीज बनी, नर्वस सिस्टम बनी, तो डिफॉल्ट सिस्टम है. उस पे दूसरे लेयर आते गए. So the basic अपन जिसको नेटिव ह्यूमन बोलते हैं ना, नाही का, त्याला काय म्हणतात जेनेटिक्स मध्ये वाइल्ड टाइप ह्यूमन, वाइल्ड टाइप यानी अनट्रेन्ड ह्यूमन. वाइल्ड टाइप ह्यूमन और अनट्रेन्ड ह्यूमन का बेसिक फीचर है. So it's quite powerful. That is what gives us power. It has a lot of ready-made programs also. All our habits, programs. Baby is born, baby is expecting a mother. बेबी को सीखना थोड़ी पड़ता है ना कि मदर है यार ये तेरी, नहीं का. बेबी को इंट्रोड्यूस नहीं का. बेबी being introduced to mother, you would never see, नहीं का. Baby instinctually knows that there is a mother. How does the baby know that there is a mother? How does baby know that it has to suckle? तो ये सारे इसलिए इनको default program बोला है. We are born with them. Okay? So lot of them, not only our childhood, default we are carrying from our ancestors also.
How about past life?
Yes, I can tell you about my past lives. No problem. So therefore, default state is a collection of huge amount of information, huge amount of reflexes. It's a collection, with which we are there, and not only Homo sapiens. Lot of default content in us has perhaps come from our other animals also. That is how we get all our basic instincts, no?
So we are born with it or we grow with it? Born with it. Because according to Adler, which is another like Freud, he says that nothing is related to your childhood. It is like your goal, you change your behavior to match that goal.
Yes, तो इसीलिए तो वो ऐसा हुआ ना, एडलर के बाद और भी बहुत लोग आए.
So it's like totally
Adler is the second school of Vienna. Then came a third school which also will talk. Husserl के ऐसा कुछ नहीं होता है. स्कूल इसीलिए रहते हैं कि फर्स्ट स्कूल का आदमी बोलता है दिस इज इट. सेकंड स्कूल बोलता है कि अरे क्या ये सब मिथ्या है. नहीं क्या? My school is correct. Then a third school comes and बोल रहे ये दोनों लोग कुछ नहीं, मत सुनो उनकी. But most important moot point for all of us to remember that we are born with certain automatic structure, and it is necessary for us. All our basic drives, they all are sort of, we have to be born with them, Survival is dependent on that. So default is a Ganga. Only we need to sort of know how to harness its force, how to harness its power. If we don't do that, it could also have lot of destructive value. So अभी जो हो रहा है ना, ये अभी कल ही जाके ले में नहीं क्या, जो हो रहा है पूरा नॉर्थ में अभी, that the nature is that it's destructive based. It is dashing out, kind of things, because power को harness करना है ना क्या, इसीलिए human beings ने सीखा ना, फिर धीरे धीरे आगे की स्लाइड में देखेंगे क्या सीखा ह्यूमन बीइंग ने. तो नेक्स्ट स्लाइड यार बाबा, नेक्स्ट स्लाइड. ओके, सो people sometimes also to this experience this default, people call it as a popcorn machine also. So it is continuously like popping up, and popcorn machine को अपने को इसलिए क्या है कि we have to have the smartness to collect the popcorns, and otherwise they keep popping in all directions. देखिए ना आपने, you see popcorn machine ना, they pop in all the directions. तो उसको क्या करते हैं, कैसे करते हैं, how the popcorns are harnessed?
फ्रेम बना के
enclose it in an enclosure so that the popcorns won't fly off on the road. Okay, so we'll see that, what to do that, and what it is called as. Next slide. Let us now do therefore another small experiment. Okay, now you know the basis of first experiment. अभी आप देखो और कौन सा नेटवर्क अपना सिर ऊपर निकाल रहा है दिमाग में, देखो, ट्राई करो.
So I was very sure that I would like to meditate in that 5 minutes. Didn't happen. I was continuously refocusing on my breath, and as soon as I closed my eyes, after a few seconds the light went off, and I started thinking how my brain came to know that now the lights have off, because my eyes were already closed, and I was remembering a podcast by Andrew Huberman who explained this entire concept, and I was trying to recall that. So I was refocusing again and again on my breath, and it just kept
शांत बैठने से तो डिफॉल्ट और भी डेंजर हो गया.
Yeah, so I was definitely not meditating.
That's why a lot of us we try to keep ourselves busy ताकि वो उसका तकलीफ नहीं हो डिफॉल्ट.
So I have gone through many phases.
Yes.
Initially I was drowsy. I thought I will sleep.
Yes.
But then some noise started at the back. Probably his camera was noising. So
Yes.
my whole attention was on that noise.
So there was a competition between our sleep network, which is the reticular activating system.
Yes, so that was
and this what
disturbing.
auditory thing. So finally the auditory one.
Yes, so
उसने
that was
sleep network को
disturbing.
दबा दिया उसने.
Then I concentrated on my breath and tried to
Okay.
be calm.
Okay.
Then I started thinking what could be the interpretation of this.
Yeah, you have.
I was trying to concentrate for a long time, but couldn't concentrate at all because there was constantly crocodile noise.
अरे यार, अरे पर वो concentration.
It was there totally crocodile noise behind. So I thought कि what Baba eating is all behind me. It's a big crocodile noise. Plastic or some cutlery crocodile was going on still.
Two people heard the noise. It fits with the prevalence of psychiatric problems. Out of 50 people, 2 people hearing noise. There is no crocodile. चलो crocodile थी यार, चल मान लिया crocodile थी. Okay, we agree. Okay. This table, है ना mic है, you got your mic.
Keep it to the instruction only कि eyes close करना है और silence में बैठना है.
Yeah.
But then वो thoughts जो चल रहे हैं माइंड में वो चल रहे हैं देन आई अगेन थॉट कि नहीं उनके ऊपर फोकस नहीं करने बस मुझे चुपचाप बैठना है वो भी नहीं हुआ देन वो जो then there was a pain in my neck and ultimately वो जो neck वाला pain था वो ज़्यादा powerful था उसने सबको dominate किया और वही एंड में आई फील कि वो जीत गया
पेन नेटवर्क जीत गया इसका
यस
पेन नेटवर्क जीत गया इसका interventions failed when people are in those trials you get different results and when people actually try to implement lifestyle changes modification you understand it but it doesn't happen because large parts of your brain they do not listen to you okay so if we have to rate our own self it is for us to really introspect on this that does my own brain does it listen to me like I am sure in an interactional way you may be those who have children or other people in relationship you may complain कि ये मेरी सुनता नहीं है बच्चा मेरी सुनता नहीं है हस्बैंड मेरी सुनता नहीं है डैडी मेरी सुनता नहीं है अरे तू खुद की भी किधर सुन रहा है यार तू खुद की ही सुन नहीं रहा है and you are expecting other people to listen to you think about it I mean in a serious way this should be an eye opener to all of us that we practically live like there is a imaginary idea called as automatons पता है क्या आपको you heard this term called automatons robotic existence this is what is our robotic we don't even realize it that we live like robots as if our willpower has no meaning we have no free will no choice we want to make a choice we want to make this choice but our system doesn't allow us to make that choice we are completely hijacked completely automatic let us now try to do a third one next slide अभी ये कर लो बाबा ये सबका फेवरेट है somehow I don't know why but आदमी जब तकलीफ में होता है तो खुद की ब्रीदिंग को देखने की कोशिश करता है I don't know why but let us try this now okay and if your attention drifts please bring it back to observe breathing you are allowed to do it now we are assuming that we are normal humans we are automatic humans our attention is going to drift 100 times so what you are expected to do in this task okay is on page number 3 आपका वो जो हैंडबुक में है ना पेज 3 ऑब्जर्व योर ब्रीदिंग because what we like to know is not that whether you are able to observe your breathing but how difficult it is for you to sort of how many times you get interrupted how easy or difficult for you to adhere to this task okay let us do this अब की बार लाइट आउट नहीं करते हैं उससे ब्रेन को और अलग कुछ तो भी
क्रॉकरी
क्रॉकरी बंद कर यार
नो नॉइस प्लीज नो नॉइस
no noise now there is no crockery we can certify hallucination if someone hears a crockery now
everything going on
still going on अभी थोड़ी देर में email conclude होते हैं conspiracy पीछे के लोग conspire कर रहे हैं
See, sir.
Hey, अच्छा है यार, चलो. You come and sit here so that you are not. This is one of the actions. You can take this seat here so that you are not disturbed by the crockery. करो यार, ये try करो. Try this. Not much, maybe just 3 minutes.
And then this time, I couldn't let it play because it wanted to continue where it left off. So I had to keep bringing myself back to focusing on my breathing. That was the challenge.
Okay, so what was Intel feeling?
My mind wanted to keep playing that music.
Okay, her mind wanted to keep playing the music here. But so there was some kind of a tug of war between one mind wanting to play the music and the other mind saying, "Okay, stay focused on breathing." So finally, which mind had
No,
the
I
upper
was
hand?
able to, at the end of it, I was able to sort of pause.
Good. Pause the music. Good.
So while doing this, I was able to focus on my breath. And twice I dozed off in between, so I had to go and come back again. So
Good. Very nice. So that sleeping network was trying to get active. Good.
So for me, I was trying to focus on the breathing, but at the same time, my other mind, it was like completely fixed on the previous topic, that how you are not convinced about everything about the default mode and everything, whatever you have learned about that, and still Ayurveda, how it can be integrated, all the factors, and I'm still trying to find answer to that question.
Good. So mind is stuck with the question. You are good.
Similar to what Rachel said, twice.
Twice dozed off. नीचे की public, anybody? Idhar, yeah, you want to?
So I could focus on breathing, but in between the pause between breathing, so mind tend to drift towards various thoughts.
Various thoughts. Okay. So thought activity, thought network was बीच में चल रहा था. Okay. Thought network. Yeah, पीछे.
I was able to focus on breathing 95% of time, and only for 5% of time I was thinking कि why now this time I'm able to focus on my breathing.
So this breathing exercise I do every day before sleep. So it was easy for me.
Okay.
But suddenly that crockery noise started. So I started laughing. So I was laughing this time along with breathing. But focus was breathing that I could able to complete.
I think this time it was an easier exercise.
Yeah.
Holding on to the breathing. Maybe I had a little itch on my shoulder 2-3 times. But otherwise it was easy.
So giving a task to the brain perhaps helps it. बराबर है ना? That's why we like to. So this is called as a focused attention. This is called as a focused attention. But obviously, as you would notice, maybe some of you had the chance to go for some meditation course, etc., wherein they require you to initially 2-3 days just sit and observe your breathing. Sometimes gets very tremendously hard. Because focus attention, after a while your brain starts getting tired. That is why actually the drivers, they often meet with the accidents, etc., also because of the fatigue. Because focus attention is good. One thing we learned is that focus attention is a way in which you can keep your default, reasonable check, I would say. I think most people were able to keep their डिफॉल्ट इन रीजनेबल चेक. जब केवल साइलेंस में बैठे थे ना, कुछ टास्क नहीं थी, तो आई थिंक दैट टाइम द डिफॉल्ट वाज एट इट्स फुल फोर्स में था. कुछ टास्क भी है तो इट लुक्स लाइक, सो एक पीछे रन करो जरा, पीछे मागे रन करा, मागे प्रीवियस स्लाइड, अजून मागे, अजून मागे. हा. So this is called as that you are trying to now, there is another network which allows you to take control. Now you are activating this network. So you are able to take some control of this one. So this network is now sort of able to, although this is still there, बीच में you see the spurts of default, still coming. But at least you are able to overpower it with the executive control network. Okay. Let us now look at another situation. So, आगे बढ़ाओ, slide आगे बढ़ाओ. Let us try to do another type of activity now. Okay, instead of this focus attention, let us try to do another activity. Next. एक minute, just. So first, let me tell you this. Okay, those who may be interested, that this is the attention or the executive control, the attention network and the default network, and there is a switch in between. Okay, so the normal rule is that either you are in default or you are in attention. You are simultaneously. That is the normal rule. As you just now noticed, that sometimes you tend to go back into the default network and then you are able to switch it back here. Switching back. So there is a switch in the brain. Okay, let us try to make some use of it. Next. Okay, herein will now come another task. So what do you see here? Now by now you know default sheep. रात में कहते हैं ना, count the sheep. Okay, चलो ठीक है. अभी next what we have to do? Next slide. Okay, so we will see whether we can herd the sheep, whether we can give a direction to the default. Okay, chalo next. Okay, what is this? This is the easiest question today. So, it cannot get easier than this if you don't know the answer even for this. Okay. But the task is not that easy. The object is easy. The task is one step difficult. This is a standard test in psychology. Okay, not my imagination. What now you have to do? Each table can assume that they are a team. Okay? What is brick used for? Construction. So as teams, what you have to do is that you have to in your mind search and imagine that other than construction, what all you will use the brick. Other than construction. Okay, and let us see which table wins. So your time starts now. Okay, someone who will be able to have the longest list of non-construction use of brick. Okay.
And also you can be careful that
Okay.
Then to sit on.
Okay.
So to stand, we can stand on the. Then we can use it as a hurdle.
Okay.
So we can cross and
Okay.
walk. We can use for a game like catching the object.
Catching the brick.
Yes. And then as a weight for it to lift or give a traction. Yes. Then if we make it
how physiotherapy like?
Then if we break it, we can use its powder for a rangoli किंवा cow म्हणतो आपण त्याला.
Yes.
Then we can make use of brick while doing different yoga postures.
Okay.
Right? Then we can make different designs out of it.
Yes.
And when we are playing with the children, so we can use that. We can use it to elevate the bed to relieve edema. Then चुलीच्या खाली वापरतो आपण heat purposes. Then we can use it for the hot fermentation. Yes. Then we can use it. I don't know we use it or no, but we have written it. छोटे छोटे टुकड़े as a scrub. Then some children they tend to eat. And some ladies also. डोहाळ जेवणाच्या वेळेस वगैरे खातात.
Only that chura, 11, 12 we could.
25, we got 25. What you
They took that chura for
Yes.
Okay.
Oven, wood fire oven, artificial pond, then stacking and playing like a Lego game. Then can be used as an adulterant also for making pathways.
Yes.
Then used as washing vessels. Then
As a counterweight.
legacy brick.
Yeah, the legacy brick
Is a unit of donation. They'll write on that.
Yes.
Temple building,
Yes.
university building.
And rangoli, the powder
Yes,
can
yeah.
be used as a rangoli.
To hit someone.
To hit someone.
This table how many? Yeah, bolo. हाँ बोलो.
You said Vittal.
Stand.
हमने वो भी नहीं potting mix in the garden soil. So potting mix in the garden soil and there is
And one different is for heating somebody.
वो हो गया. I think that's the common one.
Yes. Your table how many? 22. क्या और क्या?
Nailing something or to mark something or to teach the kids what is
Yeah, additional. In addition to what you heard.
Used as a wicket while
Stop the
playing
vehicle. To stop the vehicle, we can use it.
to make the chulas for the
Chulas and
Hello. Was when we listened to the music. Second is when everyone sat in silence. Third one, people when you observed all your breathing and all that. And this fourth test. What do you find, kind of a difference this in the group's behavior here, about these four?
Everyone was thinking only about the break. There are no other thoughts.
No, I think in the first test,
Yes.
we performed individually. The fourth test, we were all sitting together and interacting.
No, but only break was the thought. There are no other thought processes. That's what I am thinking.
Working as a continuous activity, sir. So,
But
creative activities we were calm, but for this activity we got stimulated and we were
Team activity.
So the team activity.
Energy level very high.
So then why is there so much premium on observing the breathing? Why not do this in your daily life? Why not do this in your daily life? Break can be replaced by other activities about which. This is the test of divergent creativity. The standard test, pretty old test in psychology, test of divergent creativity. We all have the possibility to give a creative task to brain. Brain seemed to tremendously enjoy that task. I don't think anybody had interference from any other.
No. In fact, there was so much noise, we had to think about that noise to pay attention to it.
Yes.
So each group was noisy, but we could hear only each
Bro,
other.
क्रॉकरी का noise अभी नहीं आया. नहीं आया.
People were bubbling. The brain simply enjoyed this experience. Okay, it was enjoyable experience to brain.
It's called divergent.
Divergent creativity.
So how do we have other examples? Now brick is okay, you're showing
Yes.
us, but individually how should you do it?
We should ask them what they should do.
So whatever your hobby is, no, you can concentrate on one particular hobby: singing, dancing, writing, reading, whatever you like. So if you concentrate on one particular activity, you diverge yourself from what you wanted to do. Especially the negative.
Meaningfully, you can occupy.
But having both repetition and the creative thinking. Yeah. So repetition for consistency.
Correct identification.
But there should be
That the
variation.
focus
Yeah,
attention.
there has to be variation because we go on doing the same activity. It will again, we will back to the square.
No. So
No,
but see, so the first one, you are absolutely right. You got the right point here. You know that when you are observing the breathing, it was a very repetitive type of activity. The same action you have to keep doing over and over again. Okay. Versus here you have a chance to do something different.
And actually reward center wasn't activated in first. Here it was because there was being competitive.
Actually, it is. So don't now worry about default state. We have found a way for you to master the default. Okay, now don't worry too much about कि अब इसका क्या करना है default. Now this new existential question has arisen in life. अभी तक पता नहीं था अच्छा था बोले life was happy. सुखी था जिंदगी में default state का पता नहीं था बोले अभी default state it is bothering me. What to do? You know what to do with it. Yeah. Next slide. Let us see there.
I have a question. If
Oh,
some thought is fixed at that particular point, like that default.
Yes.
So how you explain it?
Yes.
Because she is not getting out of that thought.
Yes.
Because she is not satisfied.
That is the definition, classic definition of neurosis in psychiatry. Being stuck. Yeah, being stuck.
Yeah.
Going round and round, being stuck. That is neurosis.
So which part of the brain?
Amygdala.
Amygdala?
It's a primitive brain which is taking you there.
Already they have started getting creative ideas about the neuroscience. अभी तक default में से बाकी सब आ रहा था. Neuroscience का कुछ नहीं आ रहा. अभी अच्छा है amygdala का नाम आया. अभी और भी चीजें याद आएंगी. I am sure you will remember more things now.
Amygdala is very powerful. Anger, this emotions.
सब याद आने लगा. हाँ बोले सब कुंडलिनी जागृत हो गई सबकी. कुंडलिनी जागृत हो गई. सब याद आने लगा neuroscience. So these people, they actually did this experiment. Functional MRI, do you know functional MRI? No, within the MRI you can put a person, you can actually measure the activity which is happening in the brain, okay, through the changes in the oxygenation, changes in the blood supply to different parts of brain, and they came out with a very interesting kind of a finding. Same test was given to people. So the test subject was lying inside the MRI tunnel. एंड स्क्रीन में उधर दिखाते आता है ना, तो स्क्रीन में वो यू कैन शो एक्चुअली ब्रिक दिखाया, उसको बोला कि भाई यू डू दिस नाउ, ओके, एंड दे फाउंड दैट डिफॉल्ट एंड एग्जीक्यूटिव नेटवर्क कपलिंग सपोर्ट्स क्रिएटिव आइडिया. सो द रूल ऑफ ऑर्डिनरी रूल ऑफ न्यूरोलॉजी आई शोड यू 1 minute ago. Go back. Go back. Go back. Go back. So now what is happening is that you are mastering actually the switch itself. So that what you are able to do, you are able to make use of, you are able to make a friendship between the two competing networks. When you try to focus your attention, when like you are doing in focus breathing, there was a competition between the red and blue. Now what you are doing is that through this creative activity, you are creating a friendship between the two networks. The two networks are working together now. That is what was the result of this particular experiment. Next. Yes, so it is possible therefore to do that. You can hurt your default state. Okay? तो उसके लिए डंडे की जरूरत नहीं पड़ती है, उसके लिए डायरेक्शन की जरूरत पड़ती है. The more forcefully you will try to dabao the default state, the more forcefully it will come back. The experience of a lot of obsessive people, the more they try to resist some, like you said, some idea you are stuck with. The more you try to resist that idea you found, the more powerful it becomes. While as there is a smarter way of doing it, wherein you can sort of have a, instead of getting stuck, you come unstuck. There is a movement. Next. This has been described in modern psychology as the process of flow. And the Hungarian psychologist who described it, that man's name is unpronounceable. Chismilihai. But the spelling is terrible. The person's name is Chismilihai. After great effort, I have learned how to pronounce it. How to spell it will take another 5 years. Basically, I have found that that if you do activities wherein you give yourself a little bit challenge, this won't happen in routine activities. So you cannot enjoy. Lot of people, including a lot of professionals. The current topic doing rounds, and we have it in a lot of our medical conferences, about burnout of professionals. Professionals get bored by just doing the repetitive thing. Okay, so there is a lot of discussion that burnout happens typically because of repetitive tasks. So one of the good ways so this Chismili thing was Pfeiffer further did research on that and found that the routine activities get boring, because we are so accustomed. Like a medical there is a term called as spinal. इस patient को तो मैं spinal level पे treat करता हूँ, मेरा दिमाग पे लगाने की जरूरत नहीं है. Patient आया निकाला, नहीं दिन में 100 patient निकालता हूँ मैं इस तरह से, दिमाग वगैरह लगाया. पर he showed this another researcher who followed up on Chismili that if you take challenge upon yourself, which is a slightly challenging, beyond your routine life. Of course, if the challenge is tremendous, then you will feel stressed. If the challenge becomes too much, you are stressed. But if you take a little bit more challenge in your everyday life, that keeps your life very lively. Like all the tables were very lively during that task. Okay? Fine. Next. Okay, so then let us see what people said 2,000-3,000 years ago about this. What Chismili said a few decades ago, some people already said it a few thousand years ago. Next. Okay, holding attention on a field. In this case, like it was the brick. You decided that this is my topic, the brick is my topic. Anything can be your topic. Then what you did was intentional streaming within the frame of imagery, thought, bliss, awareness, whatever. So you said that just let me think only about the brick. But let me think in a non-repetitive way. Not its common use. Like आजकल लोग उसको, there is a cliched phrase called as out of box. Like out of box सोचो जरा. Out of box is this, that other than what I am routinely doing, what beyond that. So that is out of box. So think out of box and attainment of flow experience. Now the main difference between all those other states and the flow experience, that you are totally lost in the flow state. You really enjoy it. It's a pleasant state of absorption. That is how it is described. One question which I ask in workshops, which we make actually incidentally many, he was asking me that, so yes, we make a lot of them with medical professionals, we make a lot of them with patients also, patients, their families also. Is that we assume, that you all have been good students. Anytime ऐसा हुआ क्या कि, that you got the question paper in your hand and you really had studied well for it and you just sat down. You got the question paper in your hand, you sat down, you start writing, then a bell rings, 10 minutes बचे. Then you suddenly become aware, nearly 3 hours passed. People are sitting next to you. They are there in the entire examination hall. The invigilator is going up and down. यहाँ पे जैसे हुआ है ना, like you said, other people were making noise, other tables were making noise, but you are still doing that your work. So all the noise, you are in the midst of noise. Now you imagine the situation where small noise is irritating a lot of people, versus actually when lot of noise is actually happening, many more decibels. If you have to, objectively measure, बरोबर है ना? If you objectively measure the plate crackle, which is very irritating, very small decibel but very irritating, versus you are in the midst of such a noise but no irritation, lot of pleasure even in the midst of that irritation. So in flow you become one with the experience. You just lose, you are not thinking about yourself, you are not thinking about time, and the whole thing just becomes a very pleasing experience. So which all times in your life you had experiences like that? Other than meeting your boyfriend or girlfriend.
Singing.
Singing. So much pain.
Actually, when you are learning something new, you always go into that flow because it's challenging.
That zone, yes.
Yeah. Otherwise, like once you master that skill, it becomes again boring.
So you have to keep learning new things.
Yeah. Yes. The 5 motor tasks together.
For the painting or embroidery. Helps that.
Music performance.
So it happens.
Shweta, what all you do?
In workshops,
What all your flow experiences? You like to share? Yes, ma'am. Your flow experience.
See, I don't like cooking, but people who love cooking go into flow. I love dancing, I love singing, I go into flow. Reading, writing, all of that. Whatever you like, enjoying, you go into a flow of that. Especially the singers who are classical singers, they close their eyes or they're playing an instrument, a guitar or a harmonium or anything. When you look at them, you feel so nice that they're so absorbed in what they're doing. These are some examples that I can remember. My husband is always absorbed in his work. If he has a patient in front of him, no matter there are 25 patients waiting outside, he says, don't remind me of the 25 people waiting outside. He's in flow with the patient. That is the love of your work. Thank you.
Wonderful. This table, what are your flow moments or zone, as the young people call? In the zone, what are your in the zone experiences? Your in zone experience? Go to hoga to padhega isko. Yes, madam pado. Madam pado.
जो खुद को भूल जाता है
केवल तदेवार्थ जो होना चाहिए उस टाइम में वो छोड़ के बाकी सब चीज जो भूल जाता है स्वरूप शून्य में हो खुद को भी भूल जाता है. Okay? So people talk a lot about yoga in the very traditional, and I showed you, Bhavsar sir, who was very kind to be our good teacher, the Indologist. So the primary meaning of yoga, nowadays people say is joining. No, primary meaning of yoga is samadhi actually. Attainment of samadhi is the main concept and the main idea in yoga. And these are the examples, glimpses that knowingly or unknowingly we keep attaining this state. If we are now, why are we doing this dialogue? Because if we are aware of this, we can have this experience more often. And what does this experience more often do to the brain is the answer from next group of researchers. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Okay. We found that in people who intentionally mind wander, means this samadhi-like activity, two main brain networks broadly overlap each other. The default mode network, which is active when focusing on information from memory, and the frontoparietal network, which stabilizes our focus and inhibits irrelevant stimuli as part of our cognitive control system. We found that in these people, the cortex is thicker in some prefrontal regions. And as you know, prefrontal region, the front part of brain, is very important to us. To our living, our control on ourselves, this part is very important. Okay? It relates to our personality. It's called as the executive part of the brain. So it relates to our personality, it relates to sort of the emotions that we experience and the type of life that we lead. We often talk of a concept called as a quality of life. Isn't it? We talk about something called as a quality of life. One brain area which is really closely linked to the quality of life, it is the prefrontal cortex. Okay? So if you have this flow experience, this samadhi experience more often, you can grow your brain, the way you can grow your muscles if you exercise. Okay? So this is a...
Here's a question, sir.
Yeah.
So can we use this default state as a tool?
Yes.
So if we don't want to get into the activities or we are not interested in the activities which are going around us, so can we use this default state as a tool, not to get indulged into the activities which we are not interested in?
Yes.
So that
Depends
can be
on what
the
direction
positivity that we can use it as a
reverse. Yes. Reverse. Just take pahli line first. It depends on what is your frame. There is a whole room here. Okay, but the camera decides that I want to have this particular frame. Okay, so as far as that camera is concerned, that becomes the reality. Reality is huge. In yoga, it is called as pratyaksha and apratyaksha. Pratyaksha means what is visible to the frame and what is out of the frame. So we have the choice actually to decide what is the frame. So the entire trick lies, as you said, in deciding the frame. You can choose the frame, like the way you can choose what shot to show. You want to show this table, you want to show this table. So let there be plenty of noise everywhere. You can choose your frame.
Yes.
Okay. Noise then doesn't matter. We just saw here that silence, those small crackling things were more painful to the brain. Compared actually to the another situation when there was so much noise here, but people still enjoyed that activity. People can enjoy activity even if there is a noise. Even if there is a noise, there is a cancellation process in the brain. When you are in this flow state now, the rest of the noise is cancelled. Like you have those headphones, noise cancellation headphones. What they do, noise cancellation headphones? They cut actually the background noise. So during the flow state, the background noise is cut. That's why you are so. Again, our examination hall example there for although when you are uncomfortable, when the questions are uncomfortable, you would have seen people's behavior. कोई बोल रहा है मेरे को पानी का ग्लास चाहिए, कोई सिर खुजल रहा है, कोई बोल रहा है मेरे को कॉफी चाहिए. फिर वो इन्विजिलेटर किसको बोलता है इधर उधर मत देखने का तो खुद की you focus on writing well. So you find all kind of behaviors if you are not in that flow state. Flow state and the flow state can go on and on. Like she said, for hours together without getting tired. You cannot drive. You cannot observe focus breathing even in a good way for 5 minutes. Doing task for hours together may be very difficult. Merely focusing your attention on breathing or any one activity. Focus attention is a difficult thing. Repetitive. The creativity has the fun that there is a movement in it. Okay, in yoga it's called as a prashanta vahita. Something which has a nice smooth flow. As against actually the turbulence, there is a very nice flow. You just go on and on. Non-tiring state. In fact, it gives you energy. You like it at the end of the day. Prashanta vahita. Okay.
There was one question that Madam has said that you can be in a flow state when listening to music.
Yes, so that's a passive flow.
So is there a
main idea? Samadhi is not passive flow. Samadhi is an active thing. Samadhi, the prerequisite in samadhi is a pratyahara. Pratyahara means you cut all cutting the noise. Pratyahara is your brain withdrawing itself from the external senses. And it automatically does, like when you did the task, pratyahara automatically happened. That's why I showed you, that there was so much noise around, but you could still do that. If you are with the task, you can still do the task despite so much noise. So the pratyahara is happening, in the flow automatically. You don't have to tell your audition. पहले नहीं करने तो देखा था. Audition, vision, क्या jump कर रहे थे बीच में. अभी कुछ jump नहीं किया किसने. All networks. They agreed to work with each other, they agreed to cooperate with each other.
Active flow.
So the passive one is not a flow. Passive one is not a flow. It's a passive thing. It is not the classical flow. The classical flow is when you are doing something in action. A voluntary action.
Yeah, localized कर सकते हैं क्या?
Yes.
There is a name for this active flow and passive flow.
Yes.
So what are the name of these pathways?
बताया ना? आगे बताओ आगे लगाओ आगे लगा बाबा आगे लगा.
Sir,
this here.
Sir, can I comment? Frontoparatal network.
Two networks overlapping each other, connecting to that insular network. Insular network is the switch. So the two networks, what they are doing is that you find that, see all the networks, as we know, the brain activity is all EEG, electrical activity. So normally what happens that maybe you all are, even those who don't have neuroscience background, by general knowledge you would know that there is an electrical activity in the brain. And what different networks mean, that they actually have their own electrical activity. In the flow, what you find that the electrical activity of many of these networks synchronizes. We have actually, EEG recordings of people, very experienced ones, doing even yogasana. inverted asana, we measured them doing sarvangasana. Even in sarvangasana, people can get a flow. We think that it's such a difficult task. Person is maintaining balance. You find that actually they go in a synchrony, almost sleep-like state. Get some sleep spindles and slowing down of the entire activity. So this is possible. Therefore, it's not very difficult at all. In fact, the main goal or the main purpose in the entire yoga activity is to seek this. So the whole idea to do the entire Ashtanga is actually to seek the flow.
Sir, can I?
Sorry, yeah.
I play instruments.
Yeah.
Like ma'am said, dancing.
Yeah.
So there's a rhythmic flow.
Yeah.
The flow is very rhythmic,
Yeah.
and you're synced with the rhythm.
Yeah.
And the outcome is pleasure, happiness, satisfaction.
Yes.
So, is there a difference with rhythmic flow and the typical work flow?
See, flow is a flow. Everything is rhythmic. Even the work is also rhythmic. Everything is a
So
rhythm.
we get the same pleasure from treating a patient. Same pleasure.
See, there are 4 type of, zara maage ja, back. Take back, See, there are, just stay here. See, there are now 4 types of, you can say, broad samadhi descriptions. One is called as a savitarka. Savitarka is with imagery. So some people can have a more related to imagery. People, those who are like into music or into any kind of a creative art, painting, etc. The painting, all famous people say, is created in your mind. It is just an external expression, of what your brain has already formulated. You are just expressing it. Same way, music also. Many of you, since you sitting in this room, you are into music, the very famous and I think very highly wise and intelligent musician of India, Kumar Gandhar, he was once asked this question, about practice. So Kumar Gandhar said that, have you ever seen a painter sort of, first making a practice painting and then making the actual painting? No.
It is in the mind.
It's a creative, it's an improvisation, you sort of. So even a music rag is the frame. What is in a classical music? In a classical music, what is the frame? The classical rag, it's a short frame actually, but within that frame you have enormous possibility to make a creation. You make a painting. This is a canvas. This is the frame. But within this frame, you have enormous possibility. All classical art forms, whether it is a dance form, whether it is even cooking also. You are cooking a certain dish, it has a certain frame. You can't randomly cook something and expect good result. So there is a frame, and within that frame you have the total allowance for creativity. In one of such ones, when people were tired of brick, we said that, okay, think of a milk bottle, what you can do with a milk bottle. In another one, particularly in Germany, we once asked them what can they do with potato. Germany is a potato country and people make all kind of things with potato. You can make hundreds of things with potato. Frame is potato, one easy, simple frame, but you can use your creativity to create hundreds of things out of potato also, isn't it? So that is there for the whole idea. Savitarka is imagery. Then savichar is with thought. So not everybody is with imagery. Some people are by birth more with the thinking. So they are more in the language domain, more in the thinking domain. So their expression is in the form of scientific thought, poetry, story, narration. Like today we are using a narrative method to interact with you like a storytelling. So it is basically the thought. Savitarka, savichar. Then sasmit. Sasmit means sort of now I have inculcated one level higher skill. That I don't even need a imagery or a thought also, to continue a state of that good feeling. The state of bliss. The bliss continues. And around us we find a lot of people who actually are in a good, happy, blissful state, around us. Children are typically like that. And then we also have our own only awareness, so Sasmit. So there could be these different states of flow. The state of flow in which your language is active, thinking is active, in which your imagery is active, different kind of things. It doesn't have to be one. And many of these different networks in many of these, the main idea is like a synchronization. Otherwise, what is meant by when we said that one network is trying to be dominant, means its electrical activity is more powerful. It suppresses, it manages to sort of overpower the other network activity. It takes over, While as here what is happening is that they all are people who measured these things, So nowadays it's possible to do that, and people even now start creating the AI models also of this. So the networks, brain networks, how they are interacting with each other, how they are synchronizing with each other. So if it goes in a pathological way, of course it becomes epileptic seizure, So there is because Lina is going to tell you that there is some feature of healthy synchronization, which is called as a non-linearity. She is going to tell you that. So there is a little bit fluctuation there, okay? It's not 100% symmetry. If 100% symmetry happens, there is a fit, the result is a fit. If 100% symmetry. So it's like between asymmetry and perfect symmetry. Little bit sort of fluctuating thing, and that creates this typical flow. It should therefore be, I think, tonight when you go back, please try to think about those moments, when you had this spontaneous experience of samadhi. You can try to then make it, more regular for yourself to experience this. We just need to catch that moment in the sense that once we know that yes, this was the experience, then we have to make effort. The idea is that we make more effort, to make it more often. And the rest of Ashtanga Yoga is that what are other irritating factors in the brain which are preventing this flow. So the whole yoga is about what is it in us that which is, so according to yoga in a way you can say that yoga says that samadhi is our birthright, and all the factors which are interfering with that, the idea is to deal with them. That through the other clash. So it's called as a clash, factors which are going to interfere in that process. So how you deal with that? Maybe there may be emotional things, or as you saw other things. So you are able to reduce the brain noise. The noise which the brain is creating, that you do through that. You do through the asana, pranayam. Then you gradually are setting the stage basically for the pratyahara and dharana, dhyan, samadhi together. It's called as sanyam. There is one term called as a sanyam for all these three. So you are able to hold your attention, you are able to stay with that attention, and you can go on and on with that experience. Next one.
Actually,
Yes,
I have one more question.
Please.
I understand the concept of frame now.
Yes.
But who is the cameraman now? Who is deciding which one
You.
You are the cameraman. So if I'm in control, so why I'm distracted, or I'm not able to choose my face the way I want?
Because of the clash. Because of the different networks. So the rest of Ashtanga Yoga is how to deal with other networks so that they are not irritating you. They are allowing you to get into the flow. Okay.
And me means my mind, body, my soul.
Yes.
Me.
Yes.
You as a whole.
Phenomenal self. You as a whole.
You as a whole.
You as a whole. You make a choice.
Mind, body, soul, everything.
Yoga is an intentional activity, something which you choose. You voluntarily want to do that. I want to do this. See here. I am feeling, thinking, perceiving. This is, as we had said, first part is this inner observing oneself, metacognition. Next part is actually regulating that, what you want to do. Okay, so this is the first part, introspection, feeling the breathing, body awareness, awareness of various physiological states. That is the ordinary meaning of meditation. Mindfulness or meditation, that is what it is about. I am able to observe my inside. Okay, introspection, perceiving emotions, thoughts, memories, actions as happening, overview of my past, present, future, including health and life audit. This is in contrast to the state of flow where I-ness is lost. Okay, so I naturally start with I, and then I want to lose that I-ness. Very simple. Okay, extremely simple. Yoga made simple. Okay, next one. So this was the, lot of people like to imagery people, like thought people, imagery people. So for imagery people, turbulence represents the default state. And the other networks, which are, why does turbulence happen? Why is turbulence happening?
Lots of water has to go through a small space.
Yes, lot of water has to go to small space, there are barriers.
Obstructions.
There are obstructions, barriers, they are causing the turbulence. Next. This is a
Stagnant.
she had asked that stagnant water. एक ही जगह दिमाग अटक गया है. Stagnant water, it will sting after a while. Okay, next. Is this? That you said. This is the flow.
Controlled flow. Yes.
Controlled flow, absolutely. Controlled
There
flow.
has to be movement.
Which is initiated by you, which is terminated by you. So you are in charge of it and you get it. So my point therefore is that from the ordinary mindfulness or meditation, we need to graduate to the next, which is now we are regulating it, kind of regulating the traffic in the, this is a general principle of regulating traffic in the brain. Once you know how to regulate traffic in the brain, you are master of your own self, no longer actually those other irritating things in mind. Next one. Okay, so too much traffic, too little traffic, unregulated traffic versus the nicely flowing traffic. Okay, that you understand in Pune city if you drive on the road. Sometimes there is too much traffic, sometimes there is too little traffic. Very often there is unregulated traffic.
So where does burnout fall here? Yeah.
Burnout falls because of 1, 2 and 3. Burnout can happen because of all 3. If you have too much load on your head, that also causes burnout. That is called as the typical burnout, too much load. The second one technically is called as rust out. That I have capability, but I have no matching opportunity. Lot of people also suffer unfortunately from that also. They have capability but no opportunity. Then they suffer, because there is not sufficient opportunity and they cannot be as much productive as they would like to. Third is a bit of unregulated traffic. Luckily, it doesn't happen so much to us. Happens more to our so-called patients. They have this unregulated traffic. Default state into the thoughts, anxiety, worrying, obsessions, brooding, etc., etc. So we are therefore interested, not in the burnout, not in the rust out, but we are interested in nicely flowing traffic. And therefore we need to take charge of our lives. Most important is that we need to take charge of life. There are people who have taken charge of their lives under extraordinary circumstances also. People like Frankel. You should read their book. There is a book called as In Search of Man's Search for Meaning. Even under concentration camp, people could generate flow. So the guy said that let me keep a chart here कि लोग कैसा कर रहे हैं ना, let me like a medical doctor keep their observation. Who is surviving, who is dying, किसका attitude कैसा है, क्या कैसा है. The guy made a research in concentration camp. Can you imagine? But because of that research, he remained alive. And he said that I remained alive, because I did this research. I gave myself meaningful task. So you have to give yourself meaningful tasks in life. You have to take control of your life. You have to sort of give yourself meaningful tasks. You have to give graded challenging tasks to yourself. That is the main, you can say, idea for the brain health. Okay, someone who learns that, this one is not very difficult. That's why I tried to put it this way. Luckily, we could understand because of some great teachers. People normally have a notion that samadhi is something very esoteric. Okay, or what not. Maybe let us not think about it. People think let us not think beyond asana pranayama. Okay, Bhavsar told us that yoga is like a top down. It's like a structure that first you think the top, then you think of coming down. So the top is samadhi naturally. You think of the samadhi, then you think that in order to attain this state, what else shall I do? So that I remove the obstacles in the path of attaining this state. So it is actually that simple. Okay. Next. Okay. So this is the nice theatrical cartoon to summarize this part. Like if people are ready for tea, coffee, choice is ours. Choice is ours. So if you don't take charge, your mind is full. Okay. If it is full, then you know that if your tummy is full, then what happens? It's the most unhappy state that you could be in. You feel heavy. You feel loaded, you feel uncomfortable, you don't feel light, you don't feel energetic. You feel tired, because of all this garbage. Okay? You feel tired because of all this garbage. Okay? Psychologists have a fancy term, baggage. Carrying emotional baggage. तो भाई क्यों कैरी कर रहा है यार, मत कैरी करने का. Don't carry emotional. You have an option not to carry it. लीना के यहाँ पे वर्कशॉप किया था, so you put that, again, because some people are more than the language, more imagery type. So there is the imagery of a person called Atlas. Atlas का देखा है ना आपने? क्या कर रहा है Atlas ना? हाँ, Atlas is holding the entire load of the earth on one's shoulder. So therefore we have to decide whether I am so important as Atlas that I need to take the burden, of the whole world on me, or that I could be more lean and thin in terms of how much I can take on my plate. Okay, this is called as a. I will tell you later what it is called in yoga. Okay, we'll do that exercise because we need to do this audit. That what I am carrying, why I am carrying that. We need to ask ourselves these questions. That why am I carrying that? Yeah, am I the Atlas? Okay, this left hand side is the Atlas. Okay, so whether I want to be on the left hand side or on the right hand side. Okay, then this was a ready-made cartoon, so they had learned to be present and enjoy the moment. I wanted to write that, make a choice whether you want to be on the left or whether you want to be on the right. Okay, आएगा चाय वगैरह करना चाहिए. We do. We break out of flow.
The first workshop I did with him, I was asking him, why am I listening to all this? How does it matter to me as a doctor and my patients? How is it going to change? So gradually over time, with his wise and his wisdom, I would say, I have come to this conclusion that we are seeing a lot of patients who are not able to implement this on day-to-day basis. So we're seeing this happening with obesity, where people are not able to introspect what is their real hunger, and their pleasure networks, their networks for being with someone, being with the family is overpowering their hunger networks. So they are eating beyond their hunger.
So many other networks which are interfering with hunger, correct? So many.
So many. One of those is that they want to eat with the family at night all together. This is a very common thing. They want to eat late night because husband comes at 11 and 12. And that is one. Then that is overpowering their actual hunger. They may not be hungry at that time, or maybe less hungry or more hungry, and they eat accordingly. That is one. We've seen this happen with kids. Adolescent obesity. I'm sure Vani must be coming across those cases. But kids to time pass. That is their favorite thing, sitting on the couch, seeing the TV, eating, without understanding what their hunger is. Then, if you really ask this question to the patients, they hardly are able to answer this question, that do you know how hungry you are, or how much do you think you overeat or less eating. And coming to this concept of mind health, actually I came into mind health due to some patients who taught me in my real life. One is a diabetic patient. That patient told me that every time I go for a lawsuit, my sugar shoots up. And every time that lawsuit, the notice is there that you have to appear in the court. That is the month and that is the time the sugars are high. Otherwise, my sugars are perfectly alright. And this patient, she attended the Vipassana course and she said, Madam, you should go because you're also quite stressed out with all the OPD work. You need to take some break. And I said, let me try, and then I went to Vipassana long ago in 2008. So I realized that it was an experience where you are trying to achieve this autonomic regulation. So all the tricks of healthy living, whether it is art of living, whether it is any sort of a wellness program, all these are focusing around autonomic regulation. Finally, as I told you in the morning, that the link between mind and body is at one area called hypothalamus. Now this hypothalamus controls your emotions, it controls your pleasure, it controls your eating, it controls your hormones, it controls your autonomic nervous system. So finally what we are trying to achieve, whether it is neurologists, psychiatrists, whether it is wellness trainers, whether it is spirituality, everything is trying to get these sheep into one place at that hypothalamus being geared in a streamline. So this is what is the final aim of whether it is mindful nutrition, whether it is mindful thinking, even sexual health and all the wellness strategies. They are focusing on getting hypothalamus into the mainstream, being channelized in the right way and in the appropriate variability. We know that variability is a part of nature and We talk about glycemic variability as diabetic doctors. We talk about BP variability, but variability of mind, variability of the autonomic nervous system, and then comes to heart rate variability, which I was speaking in the morning. All these features are very important as far as normal autonomic health is considered, and normal autonomic system health requires inputs from everyone, from the brain, from the cortex, from the mind, from the hormones, from the body, from the metabolism, and from the activities, from the skeletal muscles, from the fat cells, and this is all integrated in the hypothalamus. So this is how we have boiled down to this whole concept of the PNI model, and this is what the implication of what sir has been telling, that when unregulated thoughts, unregulated mind comes into picture, the hypothalamus is unregulated, irregulated, and that is how the metabolic irregulation begins, that is how the hormonal irregulation begins, that is how the emotional well-being, the relationships issues come into picture, all the psychological issues, the familial issues, eating issues come in. So it's like a malfunctioning of one aspect going into the malfunctioning of the other. So finally, when we are talking, when a person is talking about health, my idea of health is now not that his sugar is normal, but whether the hypothalamus is normal, whether this person is thinking right, whether the person is thinking positive, whether the person is having normal metabolism, whether the person is having a normal mindset and normal positive psychology. So all this put together forms a normal, healthy diabetic patient. So I think it is far from real when we are saying that diabetes is controlled versus uncontrolled. What is uncontrolled is what you need to define. So I feel that these people who are unregulated, not having positivity, who are depressed, who are anxious, who are not exercising, who are not following the nutrition, mindfulness, purposefulness for that matter, all these are people who are not normal. They need additional help and adjuvant to control their health. And this understanding which sir has brought about is very important for us as NCD doctors. We don't really know, nobody's taught us psychiatry that well, I would say. But definitely this understanding is very important for all NCDs.
Yes, so what she said, very important things, two very important points. First is that all of you know that, I have this mic, that our normal homeostasis under normal conditions is sufficient. I mean, we run in a good way as completely automatically ongoing organisms. But the complexities of life, and that we'll discuss, that why this load called as allostatic load. This burden shown here, maybe on the right side, as you see, a lot of stuff accumulated there. This accumulates in us, whether we like it or not. We will discuss that why it accumulates and why we are not able to remain in perfect homeostasis. Nina is going to explain us that later, that why we cannot remain in perfect homeostasis, why this load starts accumulating in all of us. And therefore, we need to bring some degree of this regulation, the term that she used. The advantage, therefore, that luckily we being trained and being familiar to the neuroscience as well as the medical sciences, we try to absorb more, from the traditional methods. People, of course, also try to use, but we try to formalize what we like to call as neuroregulation training. So, a lot of mind-body medicine, you can say large portion of mind-body medicine is actually about the neuroregulation training. Everything is under that. So, it's not there for just yoga and meditation, but it is actually the technologies, these insights that we are able to derive from yoga and meditation, as well as from the modern new positive psychology, as well as from the health sciences. So you put the exercise, diet, yoga, meditation, positive psychology, you put everything together, and then you derive the components, useful components from it, which are helpful for the purpose of neuroregulation. The patient is able to become the master of one's own self, learning that is what it implies. And then the person is able to really implement the so-called healthy lifestyle, etc., whatever you may want to call it. Because then the person has the control within oneself. We don't, normally we have an illusion of control. You all saw today here, that we all suffer from this illusion of control. We think that I am in charge of myself, I am in control of myself. which we really are not. So the main idea therefore through this psychology, yoga, meditation, exercise, diet, everything is to do that. So wherever the natural homeostasis falls short, we want supplementation of this neuroregulation. Natural homeostasis, let us say, would do 95%. But we may be required to bring in that 5% of neuroregulation so that we are able to make as much correction to the problem as possible. Humanly, everything may not be possible. We also need to understand that there is a limit also to human endeavor. So we cannot expect that everything would become perfect in every instance. But there is a great degree of control opportunity which we are currently not using. And that's why that is the idea that in addition to medication also is a measure to control. Homeostasis that got disturbed. One control comes through the medicines. Similar way, you try to bring in some more control by neuroregulation training. So that the two together are able to work better and to able to have the system once again in balance. That is the whole idea, in short, about the mind-body medicine. So this is all about therefore neuroregulation training. Exercise works through brain, diet works through brain, psychology works through brain, yoga meditation works through brain, everything in the end works through brain. So it is a lot of brain work finally. Because your muscles, your gut, everything in the end is secondary, to actually the commands that they receive, from the brain. So it's like many of these networks. So some people say maybe there are 30 heads, 30 pacemakers. Now each pacemaker you can call as one network, one head which is trying to. So it's not only 10 heads. It's like a hydra, inside our head. Many more heads than that. To get actually them to cooperate with each other, collaborate with each other. Inner sort of.
Is stress is also
Yes.
responsible for genesis of diabetes?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Stress is responsible for genesis of diabetes. Stress is responsible for worsening of diabetes. And if we are able to attain stress removal, also has a possibility, to regress the diabetes in good measure. Yes.
Psychosomatic is a big
Yes.
at the beginning of diabetes, hypertension.
Definitely. So stress is modern biological form called as allostatic load. Dina is going to talk about that. So that's why we are lucky. We have pathology people, we have physiology people who help understand these mechanisms in a better way. So they are going to talk about.
Psychoneuroimmune endocrine model says that when psychology is disturbed, the immunity is disturbed, the hormones are disturbed, and that is why the whole autonomic nervous system disturbance sets in, and all this leads to the allostatic.
We are going to discuss with you, that what can be assessed clinically and what needs to be assessed through some additional lab, additional new type of lab which we are currently not doing. Beyond the labs that we are routinely doing. So what the clinical thing is called as clinimetrics. Clinimetrics means measuring in a clinical way. What all we can measure, about this allostatic load, stress, etc. in a clinical way, and what all we need to supplement by certain these special investigations. Okay. So when you will go back, you all will go back as champions of neuroregulation training, and to assess that, that whether the person is in allostatic load, if yes, how much, how can you make out clinically, what all tests you can do, they are going to share all that with you. Maybe run some of those tests like we did today on your own self, to see.
Probably we will be on the right side.
Next time you have to be on the right side. So the
no problem. See, it is anyway helpful, because on this dimension right to left, we could be anywhere on this dimension right to left. We at least will get an idea and a determination, that where I want to be.
We are on this side, so probably we'll go with this.
Yes, yes.
So we'll have a tea break now. The
Sure,
tea is
sure.
served in the
Break out.
veranda there, and
Yes.
there are stalls also.